What up, though? What up, though? What up, though?
Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Uncomfy Truths, episode 38. This is our first episode. We made it to 2025. We we survived what was 2024, and it's our first episode of the new year. I am your co-host, Conservative Brother Daily, joined with my esteemed co-host, Conspiracy Brother, and Pastor William Green, our latest addition to the new Avengers, if you will, the Avengers, the True Tellers we're building here.
Hey.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Well, not too bad. I mean, as good as you can be for
Under
the
these
new year.
circumstances.
Right.
Blessed and highly favored.
Yes, that is definitely a great reminder. Blessed and highly favored, regardless of all the foolery, the shenanigans, the corruption going on. Hey, we all had a good holiday, I'm sure. New Year's, spent some time with the family. High strung election year. Then we had some good time off. So I hope everybody is well rested and back in the frame of mind to just tackle so much going on in the world. So everybody had a good holiday? Yeah.
The holiday was enhanced with the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that. Accelerator, if you will. Conspiracy Brother, hope you had a good, holiday with the family and well rested for a New Year's shenanigans.
My parents came in town, so that was nice. And my one sister and her husband came over, and my nephew. So that was a nice get together. But just the opportunity to enjoy time with your family, especially in the spirit of the season, is always nice. So kind of let you step back away from the madness of what's going on outside and remember what this is all about.
So most definitely. And even like with, I had a good time spent with the folks and some sibling, a sister of mine and, a lot of cousins I haven't seen in a while, so it's good to keep things in perspective. As we all know, we have people that may not agree with us politically or, different things, but at the same time, it's good to just still remember family first. And then also, it's just good to be able to kind of step away and then not let the politics of the day, interseep in so much we got going on. But with that in mind, we got a lot to get to. I want to do a quick plug first on Uncomfy Truths. So once again, those that are watching, we're going to be really leveling up our content this year. So pretty soon, look for more what I like to call, hold on a second. Yeah, what I like to call shorter clips, like short micro-sized clips. We're going to be trying to do a little bit more shorts, a little bit more sections of different topics. So we're going to be loving up our content. But in the meantime, you can still follow us. I got the screen share right here. Conspiracy Brother, if you want to share real quick, just do a quick plug for Uncomfy Truths. Follow us on YouTube, guys. Our YouTube has been a little stagnant, but we've been growing since our Kamala Town Hall series a couple months ago, along with YouTube. Rumble right here. Definitely follow us on Rumble. And then we are also on Odyssey. So YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey. Subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Keep the show going. And, you definitely want to keep growing the collective as well. And then getting people on when we can. So really quick, Pastor Green, if you want to go ahead and just give us like a little opening prayer, sending good vibes, and
Absolutely.
Go from there with the first topic.
Absolutely. Dear God, we just thank you, Lord, that you have ushered us into 2025. And Lord, as we reflect on these past 4 years, Lord, we are truly grateful for the change that you are about to bring. So now, Lord, I just pray that you will be in our presence and that you would give us the words of wisdom to say to our audience. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first topic. Obviously, this has kind of been most prominent in the news. We might as well get to it. See here. Yeah, the New Year's attack. Very unfortunate. Our heart and prayers are with all the families affected. You know, the victims, the families of the victims. Obviously, New Orleans on New Year's Day going into 2025. There was an attack with a suspect who was named. I don't have the name here right in front of me, but the guy had a link to ISIS. He, commandeered a car, drove a truck into a crowd on New Orleans, I believe the French Quarters, and killed about 14 people. Very sad story. People from all different walks of life, black, white, every which color, creed. Very tragic. I don't think we'd wish this on upon anybody so there was that. And then that same, I think within like an hour or so, I'm sure, Pastor Green, Conspiracy Brother, you guys could dive more deep on it. But I believe within that same hour, that same night, there was a Cybertruck, a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside of Trump Tower. And once again, they're still putting together a timeline. FBI is coming out with their narrative, so we got to be very wary. But they are still saying they're not linked, or maybe one of them was a little more political than the other. But yeah, 2 New Year's tragedies. One man was killed, the guy who set it up and rigged it, but still tragic nonetheless. So yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and dive in. I'd like to start with you, Pastor Green. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on this tragedy, what you think it means. Are there any false flags, or maybe some things we need to think about? What is this maybe setting the stage for? And then if you want me to click on an article for more context, let me know. But Pastor Green, go ahead.
Well, I think there's two things we have to really consider. I truly think we have an Islamic problem in this country, because many Islamists that live in this country, they're not in this country to assimilate. They're in this country to try to take over, to institute Sharia law. And I think with this open border policy that we had over the last 4 years, that we strengthen the hand of our enemies. I mean, when you see these pro-Hamas protesters in this country, it shows you the level of disrespect, Islamists have for this country. And I think if we're not careful, if we handle this problem by trying to be PC, this is going to be a precursor of what's going to continue to follow. Now, because this gentleman was aligned with ISIS, he was an ISIS supporter.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very vigilant. And when we look at how Islamists behave in other countries that they have migrated from, I really believe we're playing into their hands with this open border policy. And I really believe that all these things are planned, again, going back to the World Economic Forum, to destabilize countries that have this globalist agenda. And the second one, the incident in Phoenix, it's just too many red flags, and it just doesn't make sense.
What happened in Phoenix?
The gentleman that blew up the truck in was it Phoenix, I believe?
Well, I thought it was New York. I think
no, it wasn't New York.
It was Vegas.
I believe it was Phoenix.
Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah. So the gentleman, he's active military Green Beret sergeant. Now, this gentleman, there's no history of any mental illness or any problems prior to this incident. And one of the things I believe about these Tesla vehicles, they could be controlled remotely. And I don't believe that this gentleman actually blew himself up in that car. I mean, it just don't make sense. Why would you blow, they said that he had a gunshot wound to the head, and that preceded the car detonating. So that says a lot, because he did not seem to be the type of person that would do that, and he's active military. And the thing that gives me great concern was the FBI was quick to say that the incidents was not a terrorist attack, as was in Louisiana. Then they're saying it's not connected, but it seemed that these two gentlemen used the same app to rent vehicles. So I really believe once we get the new administration in, and Kash Patel and others who will be a part of Trump's administration, they'll get to the bottom of this, because something is a front, and we just can't take it for granted, because as the Bible says, the hearts of men are wicked, and who can know it? We can't imagine how wicked people can be, but we got an idea concerning what we saw these last 4 years. And I yield.
Great point, Pastor Green. I'll get in a little context for Conspiracy Brother, bring you up. But yeah, this is definitely has different hallmarkings of what I would say, has been a result of the last 4 years of this open border. Obviously, Samshun Din Jabbar was an American citizen, but at the same time, him along with this Matthew Livesberger guy, they're military. We cannot discount the history of an MK Ultra, of these different programs, even though they've long abandoned that name. They in essence still have those things going on, So if anything, definitely with the New Orleans attack, is going to incite initial fear. You're not going to have gun control nuts coming out saying, let's get rid of the cars, or somebody, if this was like a New Year's stabbing, they want to be going, we got to get rid of the knife control, So it's a weird spot where they're definitely they're drumming up the terror, fear mongering. Once again, I believe there are ties to this with the border, with the whole economic forum. But at the same time, I think also, if we're not too careful, this, whether Trump administration ends up falling into this or not, this can kind of be an ushering in of even more restrictions, as far as like whether it's like driving a car. You can only drive a car within 100 feet of an event, or even like with the recent mystery drones flying around, cracking down and doing more drone regulation and finding little ways where there's this new terror attack, there's this new fear where, hey, give us a little bit more of your freedom and we'll keep you safe. So I'm a little concerned about that, even though I know, like, at the same time, this can be something where both sides of the aisle have a hand in this. And also, I think at the same time, and I've talked about this, Trump isn't in office yet. He has a whole another 8 days before he's actually in office. And who's to say, like, once again, while, the Trump administration could benefit from some of this fallback to where, okay, we need to go in and give away, and really throw the hammer down and go after ISIS and all this sort of stuff. At the same time, there's also the aspect of the Democrats, the elites, the globalists, who want to create more and more chaos throughout his second term. And once again, like, God forbid, I hope this doesn't happen, but God, what's to prevent them from doing a drone strike at the inauguration? God forbid. I don't want that to happen, but we can't put anything past these people. These are the same people that 4 years ago, they either released the virus or they got released and they decided to use that to weaponize totalitarian lockdowns, totalitarian mandates, and was able to get Trump removed out of office at the same time. So nothing gets past me of what they're willing to do to find a way to hand tie Trump and to sabotage his administration even more by something like this. Because you see all the Democrats, they're all about fighting Trump. They're all about, Gavin Newsom, we're going to Trump-proof California. Instead of, like, Republicans 4 years ago never said, hey, we're gonna Biden-proof Florida. We're gonna Biden-proof Iowa. You have this sort of blatant rejection and fighting against the new administration that we never saw 4 years ago. So I think I hope once again, if it is ISIS popping back up, obviously Trump has dealt with ISIS before in his first term, but there's things such as the border opening up that has accelerated. That's given certain resources uh, that have come into our borders, due to this open border situation. So my biggest fear is that once again, this can kind of be some sort of false flag or some sort of way that they're going to use to sabotage, to create more of these terror attacks, to create more of this chaos going into Trump's first term and even the first year. And that's my biggest fear and motivation behind this, in my opinion. But conspiracy brother, I'd like to turn it over to you. Get your thoughts.
Yeah, so a lot of the things you said are kind of really along the same lines of what I'm feeling. Looking at the intentions around what these kinds of actions could be. So, like you brought up MK Ultra, right? And both of these guys have military experience. I think they both served at the same base or were stationed at the same base for a period of time, either in training or after training. And then the guy in New Orleans had like you said, the ISIS flag in his vehicle, crashed into a crowd of people. And the guy in Las Vegas, Green Beret Special Forces, former, I guess he trained some soldiers in the Ukraine during their conflict with Russia. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about this, trying to understand both of these things from a couple different angles. So I think, okay, on the surface of it, could this guy just be in Vegas? Could he be deranged? Could he be upset that Trump is no longer funding or is at least signaling that he has no interest in continuing to fund war in the Ukraine against Russia, and this is his way of staging a protest. So he's because Elon has also kind of shown his displeasure with this war and with the whole Doge thing and waste from the Department of Defense and American spending, governmental spending in general. Could this be the way that he voices his displeasure? Right. Then I think, maybe, like what you were saying, thinking more on the conspiratorial side, is this some MK Ultra stuff? And is the intention to kind of, coordinate these actions in order to hamstring Trump before he gets into office, so that even if he doesn't want to get involved in any new military conflicts, he'll be forced to, because, you can say, well, ISIS has created this mass terrorist attack and we don't necessarily have anything yet on the guy in Vegas, as far as I know. But, we know that they both use that Turo car rental, which is, I guess, is essentially like Airbnb for cars to rent both of these vehicles. And then for the guy in New Orleans, with the ISIS thing, the thing that is always crazy to me. So the president of Syria now, or whatever that guy is now, who was, I forget his name, Al-Jalani, I think is his last name. Or Al-Galani or Al-Jalani. He's like the head of Syria now because they got Assad out of Syria. He was affiliated with ISIS. He was affiliated with Al Qaeda, and he had a $10 million reward from the FBI if information was given that resulted in his arrest. Just until maybe, a month or so ago. And so now he's good. You know what I'm saying? Now he's all good. But this guy was on the FBI's most wanted list. $10 million reward terrorists like Bin Laden, like Hussein. And so, now he's all good and it's all good and everything's fine. And so I'm wondering, is this an attempt to continue bringing Trump further into Middle East conflicts when he's already voiced his displeasure with those and said, hey, I'm not interested in essentially nation building and empire building or whatever. We need to focus on China or whatever like that. And then this is something that kind of sticks out in my mind. So the guy in Syria and all these terrorist organizations, right? You never see them, and I'm not saying they should or shouldn't. This is not the point of my statement. It's just interesting that it doesn't happen. You never see these terrorist organizations attack Israel. Now we know, and if you want to, you can Google this if you want to pull up an article so that we can kind of show people that I'm not just saying things. But we know that Israel funds ISIS. Right. We know this. It's already come out. We know that the U.S. government or the CIA funds rebel groups, terrorist organizations, and the Department of Defense funds terrorist organizations.
Now, I also heard that Barack Obama, who started funded Muslim Brotherhood, does he have any ties to ISIS as well? Are they all?
I believe he does. Yeah, I believe he does. Right. But what I was going to say is actually they fund groups that fight each other. So the DOD is funding one group, and the CIA is funding another group, and they fight each other. And so, when you look at waste and stuff like that, and so while I think the open border thing is legitimate, I think it's a legitimate threat to U.S. safety and the safety of everyday American citizens. What I think is it all together fits into a concerted effort by the party establishment elites to continue to erode away the rights that we have as people in order to, consolidate power in the name of safety or the common good or the greater good or something like that. That's what I think ultimately all this boils down to. They create these situations like you talked about with the COVID. They create these situations. They create the conditions for, or even like, the new thing is bird flu. They create the situations for these things to occur. And then they institute policies that completely overstep or undermine our sovereignty, our constitutional rights, our protections, or whatever. And we ultimately suffer. We never get those rights back. You look at the airport 20 years ago, almost. Supposedly, there was supposed to be some intelligence that some explosive device was supposed to be detonated via a liquid. And so from that moment on, we could not take liquids into the airport over a certain size. Then some months later, a man supposedly tried to detonate explosives in his shoes. And from that point on, you had to take your shoes off when you came in to the airport. And, on about 08, 09, a man supposedly tried to hide an explosive inside his underwear and detonate it on his way to Detroit from Amsterdam. And so from that point on, you had to go through an X-ray body scanner, which,
Yep, I remember that.
Controversially.
That was 09. Yep, I remember that one.
They try to say that you can't see that the TSA agents can't see what you actually look like. But if you Google that too, or search that online, you can actually see the unedited photos of what you look like, and they can see your genitalia and everything on full display. That, you know, the people who may be sitting in front of you can't see that, but in the background they can see that, and so you're being subjected to either microwaves or low level radio waves, which are dangerous at any level, but over repeated use are cancerous at best, right? And so this is the kind of situation we're under. And I think it was Thomas Jefferson, but it could have been Benjamin Franklin, and I may be butchering the quote, but it says something like, those who would trade uh, freedom for security, or who would trade a little of, who would trade freedom for a little security, deserve neither, or something. And that's the kind of thing we have to remember. We're not going to ever get these rights back, you know. When they, just like the COVID vaccine, it's become a yearly addition to the vaccination schedule for children, and it's become a recommended yearly vaccination for adults. So these things never go away. And so when we sit here and we just say, you know, on the face of it all, that these people acted in the name of whatever, and we don't understand it within the context of what our government is already interested in implementing, we are working toward undermining our own freedoms and liberties, essentially in the name or in the benefit of falsehoods and lies. And so that's what I just, you know, I think. And I'll end with this as well. And then we, you know, just like with the kidnapping of Governor Whitmer, just like January 6th, when you look at Ray Epps, the FBI, the federal government, has a history of planning terrorist attacks and all types of illegal actions or terrorist actions. You can look at some of those guys, what do they call it, Patriot Front, those guys who wear the suits and all that stuff, and they wear the khaki pants, and they come. The government does these things that create these situations in order to justify their funding, in order to justify, like I said, the stripping away of Americans' freedoms. And so in that same way, I'm convinced, I'm sure, that it's possible that these men were manipulated either via MK Ultra or you know, Project Mockingbird or something similar that could have inhibited their ability to think. And in the same way, you know, you look at all these mass shootings, which are you know, used as a justification to erode away Second Amendment rights, which are constitutionally protected. You know, we just have to be mindful of that and be stronger and more. We have to be more well-grounded than that, and understand that, you know, we are up against evil people, right? And so as we're up against evil people, we are our belief, our faith, our convictions are stronger than their evil or their capacity to do evil. Our belief and you know, in a higher power or whatever sustains us at a spiritual or emotional level is stronger than they are. And, you know, we need to have the faith and confidence in whatever that might be, God or whatever you use, to continue to push forward and understand that we'll eventually overcome those evil, nefarious forces. But, you know, that's where I am.
And, you know, gentlemen, I'm stuck on something also in regards to these two incidents. You know, in the case of the gentleman that they say detonated that car, that Tesla in Vegas, the car was charred, and yet they were able to pull out two forms of plastic IDs. How do you do that out of a charred vehicle? How do you
How
retrieve?
convenient. And also, I got to go here too, Pastor Green, not to cut you off, but how we know everything about the New Orleans guy, the Trump Tower guy, but 6-7 months later, this Trump would be assassin and Butler, we learn the guy's name. He's a white guy. Don't know anything about him. Parents disappeared. They cremated the body days later. We know next to nothing about the guy that shot at Trump. Yet, FBI conveniently, he acted alone. Oh, we have his manifest. We have all this stuff ready to go. But yeah, Pastor Green. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of
And like I said, it really, the whole thing just stinks because it just don't make sense. How can this gentleman? I'm under the impression that before that this guy was even in that Tesla, I believe he was already murdered. I really believe that. Because
I
again,
could
like I
definitely
said,
see that. Yeah.
yeah, these cars could be remotely controlled. And the fact that you could retrieve ID out of a chartered vehicle, that just don't make no sense. I mean, it's just like the magic bullet theory. When Kennedy
Right.
was killed, all of a sudden you can pull out a pristine bullet that was supposed to go through two people. So, it's like the Bible says, there's no new thing under the sun. Whatever has been before shall be again. And I think we're witnessing that.
Great point, Pastor Green. Conspiracy brother, anything else when we head to the next topic?
I think what Pastor Green said is 100% accurate. There's nothing new. They don't have new tactics. What happens though, they have new victims. You know what I'm saying? As people get older, young people come out. And as long as we don't tell the young people what happened, it's all new to them. So they don't know. And
exactly.
That's why it's
conspiracy
important
brother, in regards to what you're saying with that, how you say young people, when they don't know what happened, it'll be repeated. You look at 9/11. Now, anybody that remembers 9/11 or experienced the horror, that would not be protesting for Hamas, because these same people, when the towers fell, they were cheering in the Middle East, cheering, and we have it on video, and it really, being that I had worked at Ground Zero for over a month, and I personally witnessed the devastation during the recovery effort, which I participated, pulling body parts out of the ground. I just think it should be illegal for any Islamics to protest in this country, especially if you're here on a visa, especially if you're newly immigrated, whatever. And I think when they have these protests, I think that should be grounds for immediate arrest and deportation.
Well, all right, Pastor Green, I would say that once again, as tragic as 9/11 was, and once again, like the murder of American citizens, we do have histories of false flags in this country. Out of the ashes of 9/11, we did get the Department of Homeland Security. We did get TSA. We did get all these encroachments on freedoms. And I will admit, there is a radical Islamic state. There are radical Islams in the country. They are cheering overseas, but at the same time, I also think that the U.S. takes advantage of that. And once again, they had info about 9/11. And once again, like Conspiracy Brother was talking about before, there's definitely people who can, the DOD can fund ICE. The DOD can fund ISIS. CIA can fund Hamas. Like, there's a history of them playing and co-opting these groups, funding them, arming them, radicalizing them. And then at the same time, there are a lot of legitimate, like, radical Islamists who do hate America, and they're all for it, but they're being radicalized and they're being co-opted by a lot of these bad actors within our government. So I do agree. Like, we still have to be vigilant that there are people that legitimately hate this country. They hate America. They say the quote, like, hey, the West is a woman to be mounted. And just like this truck attack, and I've said this before, I know we're going a little over here, but that when guy got behind the wheel, whether he was MK Ultra or not, and he was just an ISIS radical, he was organically radicalized through ISIS. He wanted to kill Americans. He wasn't looking at like, oh, let me get a little black American here. Oh, let me only kill white Americans. Or are you a Trump supporter? Are you a Biden supporter? That when they want to kill somebody, whether it's a co-opted false flag attack or not, they want to kill all Americans. Where you're in the street like that, you're all Americans. They want to kill as many of you as possible. That's why I feel like it's still good to it's great to have a healthy amount of patriotism where we're still skeptical and we call out the government. But at the same time, when you like just hate the country and you just think everything's about race and groups and ideologies, guess what? You have no camaraderie. And guess what? That terror attack, they all see you as an American that needs to be mounted, that needs to be killed. So I think we just got to keep in mind that these terrorist attacks, while there are a lot of people like within that camp, I'm not saying all of them, Islams who do hate America and they're all about it, they're also getting help. They're getting funded, they're getting radicalized, and they're getting co-opted by our own government. So we just gotta keep that in mind. But I just wanted to kind of throw that, just to mention that. Gotta stay vigilant.
Yes.
But yep. But all right, that's all I got. All right. Okay, y'all. Next topic. We got a lot going on. Next one that's been heating up is the great H-1B visa debate. That broke out, I think, the last week of the year. Elon and Vivek obviously have been recently appointed to what's called the government Division of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And they've been getting a lot of heat because basically, Elon, Trump, Vivek, they all ran on this America First model, American jobs, American people first. But you're starting to see this pushback where Elon and Vivek and a lot of the tech bros, and I think also any of you guys that follow Matt Kim, I've been following Matt Kim lately. Conspiracy Brother put me on. They had that usury podcast that went viral. We could talk about that a little later. But they broke down really the hypocrisy, the corruption, and the loopholes behind H-1B visa, and how a lot of these tech bros who are, once again, Conspiracy Brother talked about this a lot before, how they use open borders, destabilizing countries to drive more people in, and they're not recruiting the top 1% in India, the best and brightest that we don't have here. It's like, no, they're bringing in these low labor jobs, the call centers, the $9 an hour Boeing engineers that they bring in. And there's a good video by Jimmy Dore that touches on that. And I'm going to pull that up. But first, I'd like you, Pastor William Green, to go first and just give us your thoughts on this H-1B visa. Are you for it? Do you think we have to get this top 1% of engineers from India and other countries that we don't have here? Or do you think, hey, this is just a loophole to continue legal immigration taking jobs?
I think it's legal immigration taking jobs. And I really think these visa programs should just cease. And I think these corporate companies, these tech companies, what they really need to do is they need to start programs in these schools to train children how to have a career doing the same thing. When you look at our young people, I mean, when it comes to being tech savvy, that's something I'm not. I mean, I'm still a Flintstone and not a Jetson, okay? But the whole thing about it is these young people, they're brilliant. I mean, I got a 10-year-old granddaughter that could master a computer or a tablet like nobody's business. So, what needs to be done, start these schools that could train young people from grade school all the way through high school, so that when they graduate, that's another vocational job that people can get coming right out of high school. Okay. And I just hate the whole idea of outsourcing jobs or bringing people from other countries to do the jobs that Americans could be paid to do. But the whole thing about what they want, they just want this cheap labor. I'm gonna tell you a story now. It doesn't have nothing to do so much with a technical issue, but it'll give you an idea of why this needs to be stopped, even with these bringing people over here to take jobs from Americans, and even with illegals. I just had a delivery from Lowe's. I had about a new washer and dryer, and the two gentlemen that delivered it were obviously illegals because they couldn't speak a word of English. And the horrible thing, they couldn't even install the unit that I paid for. You see, why didn't they have American workers deliver this unit to my house? And I was really shocked. And this whole thing of always bringing foreigners to work here, we don't need to do that no more. All right, we don't need immigrants. When someone say, "Well, I'm not anti-immigrant," I think we need, and I'll say it again, we need to have a 2-year moratorium on all migration to this country until we figure out who needs to be here and who needs to go back. But we need to take those resources.
Hello, Pastor Green. Oh, you on a roll? I think you cut out. Conspiracy brother, can you hear Pastor Green?
Nope, he cut out on my end too. I thought it was my headset.
Hey, he was on a roll too. Yeah, Pastor Green, we can't hear you. Don't know what's going on. But until he gets back, conspiracy brother, go ahead. I got a lot to say as well, but I'm all for I'm officially on the legal on I'm not even for legal immigration anymore. You're a little ahead of the curve, conspiracy brother, but I'm kind of on that train after getting exposed to this. But you want to give your thoughts real quick?
Yeah, so well, I'm not one of those people who doesn't have space on my train,
Yeah.
But I will say the thing I look at it as far as the legal immigration issue and choosing it. So here's the funny thing, right? When you look at the Democrats, they'll say, "Oh, we need the illegal immigrants or the undocumented or the low-wage immigrants from South America and such because, they'll do the jobs we won't do." Even you have some conservatives say this. Yeah. They'll pick your fruit and they'll do this and they'll do the jobs Americans don't want, whatever. And that's the excuse they give. They do the jobs Americans don't want to do. Right? And then when you get to these kinds of jobs, Elon and Vivek say, well, we get Indians because they're more qualified, they have a better culture, they're better skilled, to do jobs, and so we get them to do these jobs because they're just the best suited. Yeah, and so you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where the manual labor jobs you're too stupid for, or not too stupid. The manual labor jobs, you want too much money, or
we're too lazy for. We were too lazy for the general labor. We don't want those. We're too lazy for those, but we're too smart. We're too dumb for the.
You're too stupid for the jobs that pay better.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck between the rock and a hard place. But what I think really what it boils down to, and I don't know, were you going to play some of those videos from Y Spade?
I was going to pull up Jimmy Dore one first with Steve.
Okay,
Bannon.
when you get to it, I want to play some of those from Wise Spade too.
Send me post that link in the StreamYard private chat, and I'll share that one.
I got my microphone back on, gentlemen.
Okay, I can share those. Myself.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. It shouldn't be up yet. Is it up? I'll pull your screen share back up.
I'm gonna pull it up,
I think my screen share automatically overtook yours. So I got yours.
How about
back
this? Well, Pastor Green, let's have Pastor Green finish your point, and then we could play Jimmy Dore.
Tour in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, co-host New York.
Can you guys hear that?
Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for tickets, and only there. So Steve Bannon took the gloves off.
Okay. All right. I got to pause. But yeah, Pastor Green, continue your point. Then we can play this first video.
Yeah, I think we in this country, we need to get back to educating our children, because our children can grow up to be the adults that can maintain this technical industry. All right. We have people now in America that can do what needs to be done. I don't think we need to import immigrants from overseas to do jobs that Americans can do. Americans are not stupid, okay? But what is happening is that our government is trying to dumb down Americans.
Yeah.
They're trying to dumb down Americans. And, again, I say we need to challenge and change the education and reform the education system to what it needs to be. Children used to be able to go to school to learn. And what did we used to have in this country? I know growing up in New York, we had vocational schools where you could learn how to be an electrician. You could learn plumbing, automotive while in high school. And just like we could train children in vocational fields, we need to train children and teens in this technological age how to run these industries, how to work in these industries. Not that you bring people over here who are more suited. No, that's a myth. That's a lie. One of the things that we know just by observing our society, young people are technical, and they can grasp this like a fish in water. So we need to emphasize and bring education back to the schools, and just stop all the wokeness and the DEI nonsense.
Amen. All right, let me play this first video. We'll probably play maybe the first few minutes. I think there's a really good clip where he talks about Steve Bannon talks about the H-1B lie, and then I think they share like a Boeing article about these $9 an hour engineers they get from India. So let's play the first few minutes of this. The conspiracy brother, I get to you, and then we'll play the other clip you mentioned. So here we go.
Visa program, and I'm going to play some of it for you right here.
It's very hard because this is central. It's not just central to the economics of what they do in Silicon Valley. The hate America crowd, and they hate America. The America crowd there. And when I say hate America, they hate the United States of America, the nation state of America, and American citizens. They believe in some sort of situation like was in Italy back, I don't know, in the 14th and 15th century. These kind of city-states, what they want is a network. A network where they're like a city-state, control the network. It's a bunch of serfs that work for them, not American citizens, but serfs, indentured servants. That's what they want, and they're not going to get that. We're going to win this fight. If you think.
So that's what he's saying. They want a feudal state. They want serfs, not even Americans, that work for them. And try as they might, they will never turn us into the flourishing and highly successful Chinese middle class. Here's what Elon Musk said. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, is because of the H-1B visa program. Take a big step back and F yourself in the face.
Look,
First of all, suggesting that you
big,
take,
but it's not that big. Elon,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
suggesting that you take a step back and F oneself in the face reflects a profound lack of understanding about basic physics. I find very troubling. Obviously, he's never studied yoga, nor surgically removed several ribs. Believe me, I've tried. Anyway, my dog keeps goading me, makes it look easy. But the point is,
Like
so,
son of Sam.
so here, he retweeted this. He said, "Someone please notify Child Protective Services. They need to do a wellness check."
Steve knows a lot more stuff than he's letting on, because that feudal state thing, that's a real thing that he knows about.
Yes.
And he went to Epstein's. He has that documentary never came out with 14 hours of talking to Epstein. So I'm not saying Elon and Epstein. I'm saying all the tech people. If you heard about tech from 2011 through like 2015, go back and look at stuff they were saying. It's insane. He's 100% right.
So here he is he's saying they're going to bring in just 0.1% of foreign-born engineers, which is, well, here's what I'm going to play it. This is about 5 minutes long. I'm going to play it without interruption. Steve Bannon's going to lay it down.
It's very hard because this is central. It's not just central to the economics of what they do in Silicon Valley. The Hate America crowd, and they hate America. The Hate America crowd there. And when I say hate America, they hate the United States of America, the nation, the state of America, and American citizens. They believe in some sort of situation like was in Italy back, I don't know, in the 14th or 15th century. These kind of city states, what they want is a network. They want a network where they're like a city state, control the network. And it's a bunch of serfs that work for them, not American citizens, but serfs and servants. That's what they want. And they're not going to get that. We're going to win this fight. If you think that this audience in the MAGA movement, the hoplites, the Grundoons, the Fixed Bandit crowd that fought to steal a 2020, and then President Trump's back in the darkest days of 21, and we're with him the entire time, particularly because he was right on the basic issues that were causing the destruction of our beloved republic, are going to now, after a massive come-from-behind victory, overwhelming victory, just sit there and roll over while the country's torn apart by oligarchs. It's not going to happen. And I always give full respect to Elon. Elon was absolutely central. Elon understood that this was about getting low propensity, low information voters. And the army of people from the Turning Points and from War Room and other groups, you guys that were, did the election integrity and did all the door-to-door canvassing and get the vote, that, you were essential. He did write the check, and that gets him a seat at the table. I've said that from the beginning, although I fundamentally disagree with him on major issues like the Chinese Communist Party, like transhumanism, and like the situation around immigration, but they're going to make this bold. Let me just restate something. As a fact, the H-1B visa program is a total and complete scam from its top to bottom. And Elon's put out this tweet that, all his companies have depended upon that. Now, we'll go to the information from public documents and just we would like you to publish that you brought in on HB1 visa and let us determine, let's just see the information and see if American citizens could not fill those billets. You're going to find we still haven't seen, with all this going on, have they come forward with any examples? One example from David Sachs to Vivek Ramaswamy to Elon Musk to any of them. Have they come up with examples of these Einsteins that the job could not be done by American citizen? American citizens come first. The problem in this country in the last 40, 50 years is not just America hasn't come first, it's America last. It's American citizens last. And guess what? You provide the social structure. You provide the underpinnings. You are Burke's little platoons. As I say over and over again, in the Lions Club, and the Kiwanis Club, and the churches, and the Little Leagues, and the cops, and the teachers, and all of it, the PTAs, all of it. That's the stability that is underneath American society. Society is what we generate, what we call the right stuff, because it comes from grit, it comes from determination, it comes from some you can't even put your finger on it, but if somebody's got it. Somebody call that jack culture. What Vivek's arguing for is to go to valedictorian cotton. Bro, we've seen the world what happens when you go to valedictorian culture. We're not doing that. We're not being ruled by nerds. This is not the other day about all the greatest engineers. It's very important. Don't get me wrong. We're at the cutting edge of innovation. We still have more innovation in this country. Why do you think the Chinese Communist Party is over here stealing? The only reason they're even close to being competitive is our capital has financed it, and they've stolen our technology. They didn't develop that. They stole 95% of it, either from phony joint ventures or just from people working there. Why are these great companies not coming to India? Why are these great companies not coming? Because of the social stability and the innovation that comes as a blessing of liberty.
All right, I hit an ad, but I'm gonna just stop it there. But Conspiracy Brother, your thoughts, and then if you wanted to, I think there's a video you want to play on your end. Feel free.
I mean, what I was gonna say, a lot of this is the similarities you saw throughout the British Empire after especially in the Western Hemisphere, after the end of slavery, right? So after the end of slavery, and a lot of the colonies in the Caribbean and the few they had in South America and even in Africa, where they didn't call it slavery, even though some of the conditions were similar, if not the same. It was colonialism or whatever. You saw the influx of Indian labor, or some called it coolie labor, to make up that difference. So that's one of the reasons why in the Caribbean you see so many Indian people, and there's such an Indian influence in the cuisine and culture. So like jerk chicken, curry, not jerk, but curry foods. Especially in Trinidad and Tobago, you see a lot of Indian influence, but in Jamaica and all these countries, there's a heavy Indian influence. Guyana, which is a former British colony, you see a lot of heavy Indian influence in South America. Belize, which is a former British colony, used to be, if I'm not mistaken, it was known as British Honduras. But, I don't know what it is about Indian people. I don't know if it is something unique to them. I don't know if it is a cultural thing. I don't know if it is because of the caste system, but they seem unique in their ability or desire to do, any level, manner, spectrum of job, no matter how demeaning or apparently belittling that job might be. And so, after slavery ended in the Caribbean, for example, and you bring Indians over to work, they work for very little money. And in a lot of cases, I think they were taken as indentured servants, or in some capacity, they were like, they weren't kidnapped, but they were, like leased out or loaned out. And, they moved to these countries, and they kind of helped to establish a culture and an identity in these countries. But when you look here, and I think understanding the caste system in India is important. I posted an article, read it years ago, but it was asking after Parag Agarwal, like the day after he was appointed the CEO of Twitter, why Indians make such good CEOs. Because so many companies had or have Indian CEOs, Microsoft, Google, Starbucks. I believe he stepped down, but Starbucks CEO was Indian. We know Twitter CEO was Indian. And one of the things that it tried to say was because Indians come from a diverse culture, they have a unique ability to operate around diverse ways of thinking and navigate, a diverse environment. And, so they're well suited in that, and it helps them to think in a more diverse and inclusive way and whatever, and out of the box and all this stuff. And I think that's all BS. And I think the real reason, why Indians are good at doing these types of jobs as far as CEO and things like that, and maybe more desirable than native-born American populations, is because they don't have, and a lot of people can say this, and I think they don't give it the proper context. And I think because they're foreign, it may come off improperly because it seems like they're minimized. Say it again.
They call it xenophobic when you have any sort of criticism toward foreigners, right? Isn't that the?
Well, yes, they do. But I would say when foreigners make this comment, I think people kind of tune them out because they're foreign. And so it's like, well, how do you know, or how can you make this criticism? You don't know, you don't have any experience. But I think foreigners tend not to have the same type of baggage or, a social baggage that Americans have. And so what I mean is this. I went to the Dominican Republic. And when I went to the Dominican Republic, everybody kind of looked like me, right? Everybody. The police, everybody. Every single person.
Dreads and all.
And right, everybody. Right? There were hardly, I didn't see any, and I imagine there must be some, but I didn't see any white people. Right? There were some very dark people there and some lighter people there, but to whatever degree, everybody looked like me. And so when you're in an environment like that, you don't have the pretext of race undermining every action you take, right? So when you have a class divide or some type of social inequality, right? It isn't predicated on the race of the individual. It's something else. We're all brown, right? We all speak Spanish. We all have this a shared cultural heritage. So, but lesser and lesser every day. You find this in France. You find this in the United Kingdom or Germany or whatever. And I say lesser and lesser because there's an influx of immigration and migrants and stuff from the empire coming in. From the British Empire, from the French Empire. But same is true for those historically. If you were in the UK, you were all white. So the class divide fell upon your family name, it fell upon your wealth and your education, but everybody was white at every level of the social hierarchy. So it was no big deal to oppress a white person because everybody was white. So when somebody was oppressed, they were white anyway. Same as, in India, everybody's an Indian. You don't have a large migration of people from a poorer country going to India for work. Everybody who's in India is oppressed, is Indian. Not everybody is oppressed. I want to make sure that, I wasn't misunderstood. Right. Everybody who is in India who is oppressed is Indian, and they are being oppressed to whatever degree by an Indian person. The wealthiest man in India is an Indian man. The poorest man in India is an Indian man, right? And so whatever social hierarchy, the caste system they have that dictates their social mobility is, irrespective of their, quote unquote race, right? It's because that's all the same. So when they get to this country, how I look at it, this is just as an outsider, if I can oppress people who look like me, if I can, and when I say oppressed, you look at they're called the untouchables, the Dalit class. They're the lowest of the caste system. You, at one point in time, you couldn't talk to them. You could not, you couldn't touch them, because, they would tarnish you. So that's why they were called the untouchables. They handle like feces, dead bodies, things like that, the sewer. They still do this today.
Oh yeah, I got a great clip too from Matt Kim's show, Matt Kim and Agile Peter. But yeah, Conspiracy Brother, you finish up. I want to get Pastor Green's thoughts, and then I'll play the clip. Yeah.
But so when you have, let's say, you live in a society where everybody looks like you, and you can oppress people who look like you or ignore their suffering and situation, and they look just like you, how much easier will that be for somebody who doesn't look like you? Right? White, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Black, whoever, Mexican, it doesn't matter. So if your intention is to maximize profit and, to cut waste and to make a company better and run smoother and whatever, who better to do that than a person who can completely dissociate from everybody who works with him or under him or her, right? Mm. And this is a great way to do that. India is a completely, and when we get a chance, I want to show this. I should show some of these clips, but after we get Pastor Green and we show the clip you want to show, I want to show these. It's kind of funny. I won't show the audio.
Oh yeah, you got it pulled up on your end.
Yeah, I pulled them up. I won't play the audio because it's quite a bit of profanity, and that doesn't necessarily serve my point. I'm not trying to do this to make fun of India or their situation. I'm doing this more as illustrative of the idea that India has some kind of unique, grand culture that makes them better suited for these types of jobs.
Right.
That somehow their emphasis on education or family or hard work somehow is makes them supreme as it pertains to work ethic and ability in the United States, and that doesn't appear to bear out in India.
Right.
Right. But yeah, so that's how I feel about this whole thing. And as you said, I've kind of been because I understand immigration as exploitation. I'm in favor of immigration, legal or illegal. I believe we have enough American citizens in this country who could be trained to properly make this country operate. And I believe that if we cannot, if the government, if the people in charge, if the people with money are saying that we cannot, if we are not capable of training American citizens in a way that we would be able to run the mechanisms of our own country, then what we are essentially saying is the country has failed. It has already failed. It's not failing. It has failed. It is irredeemably gone. It's lost. And, we're essentially, through this whole process, we are, say we're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. So I'll let you go, and then you can let Pastor Green, and you could play the video you want to play. And I want to play.
Well, yeah, actually, I played a video. I had 2 more clips to play, but let's do this. Why don't you, Conspiracy Brother, pull up your video while you're doing that, Pastor Green? If you want to give any additional thoughts to this, because we cooking on this. We got. I feel like we still got a little ways to go, but Pastor Green, your thoughts so far?
I just think when it comes to these corporations, they don't want to pay Americans, so they outsource all these jobs. I mean, think about this. You can't even communicate on the phone. If you have an issue with banking or whatever, and you call someone from Pakistan, it seems like someone from Pakistan is on the phone with you, and you can't even communicate. And it's not something that, oh, you're being racist. No, we're not being racist. But see, that's not even true customer service. When I call to discuss a problem, whether it be my phone, my banking situation, or anything like that, I need to speak to someone I could communicate with. You're talking like numbers and facts, and you want to make sure that you're saying the right numbers, and that the person on the other line is hearing you clearly and understanding you clearly, and I'm understanding them. But these corporations, over the years, we allowed this since, I would say, since the 80s, to outsource all these jobs to Pakistan and the other foreign countries, where we can't even communicate. That's not customer service. And now we just accelerated with, with the birth of the tech industry, that we just bring low wage people to take jobs from America. The whole basis is for these companies to cut costs when it comes to paying Americans, because when you hire here in America, you're supposed to hire people full time, and not only do you hire people full time, then you have to provide medical benefits. And these corporations for years have been doing an ugly job of basically hiring people part time so they don't have to give benefits. And this needs to stop. Has been, I would say, a 30-year problem, maybe 40 years, where has been allowed to happen, and it just needs to stop. When we say made in America, we should also say born in America and working in America.
Mic drop, Pastor Green. Yeah. Born in America, work in America is the new made in America. I love it. Conspiracy brother, go ahead and what you got here for us? We cooking.
Okay, so this is a guy. I gotta step away from my mic. This is the guy. His channel is Wise Spade 7. He makes funny videos. He kind of makes fun of people from different countries and different people doing different things, doing dumb things and funny things, and some stuff isn't dumb. It's just way of life for people, and he kind of just makes fun of different cultures and different people. Africa, India. He likes to make fun of India a lot. China.
Yeah.
Make fun of
cultural challenges. Challenges.
So, this was funny. I shared it with you. You thought it was funny. You left a couple funny comments. But, this is the superior culture that Vivek talked about. This is the superior culture that Elon Musk talked about. And so these people are uniquely qualified over American citizens to be CEOs and to do these in-demand engineering jobs, right? You have people who graduate from schools like Americans who graduate from schools like UCLA, U of M, Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all these different universities, and engineering, Purdue, you know what I'm saying? MIT, California Institute of Technology, and they're graduating with degrees in engineering. But for some reason, you have to import people from India to do the job. So let's say I'm going to try to turn off because like I said, it's a profanity. So I'm going to try to turn off to mute it, but let's see.
Chew to the fucking.
Didn't get that in time.
Yeah.
So let's see. I got it now. Here you go. This is a train in India. Video is called The Pain Train. Look at this train.
Wow.
This is the superior culture, right? All these great and smart engineers and intelligent people, and this is the culture. This is superior culture.
And they could fit at least 10, 15 on a bike. You see them driving through the street, with a bike, that 10 to 15 of them on a bike, riding to work. So train.
Here's one more. This man is making food. You don't know what this food is. He makes a joke in here. He says, why does it? I can't tell if you're throwing kitty litter or gravel on top of it. But he's using like notebook paper. I don't know if this is food or not. We just assume it's food, but it could be incense or something. Don't know. But this is like homework. You know what I'm saying? This looks like homework or something. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Don't know what this is, but this is the country that produces the people with a culture that Vivek says is superior to American culture. These people are uniquely qualified to be engineers, CEOs, and high-paying jobs. And it is not exploitation. It is. Look at this. What is this? Is this food?
mm.
I got a couple more
my God.
because I got a couple more. I'm not going to try to belabor this point.
No, go ahead.
Like
No, hit it home.
So
hit it home. Keep going.
Look at this lady here. This is
I
a
just
funny
feel like
video.
you're having a bad day. I want you to watch this shit. Make sure you're watching this bitch because these are the kind of memories that you.
Gosh. So this is an interesting. And I want to just kind of pause here because Pastor Green, you said something interesting, and not interesting, but pertinent. This is an exploitation, but it's like they want to make us poorer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You want to push American people poorer. I was online, forget who posted it, and I wish I could remember because I would pull it up. But it said something like, if like during every period in American history where immigration has been high, the quality of life for American citizens and American workers have been low. So like during the age, immigration was high and the quality of life for American workers was low. And something like some of the period, like during the 50s and 60s and stuff like that, immigration was low and the quality of life for American workers and the American citizens was high. And so it was like an actual number, like 15 or 20% immigration or something. And they were saying we see that happening now. And it was all, trying to show a correlation between the amount of immigrants we let into this country and how that negatively impacts the quality of life.
Right,
and
right.
So we tried to say that it was essentially, we're trying to say that it was blaming immigrants for the problems. And I don't think that was the point. And neither is that the point I'm trying to make now. What I think is what happens is when you bring in a lot of immigrants, their standard of living is lower. So what they expect from a government is lower. What they expect from a community and a country is lower. And what they're used to doing is lesser. So it creates a situation where they diminish the quality of life. It's not intentional on their part, but it is intentional on the part of our government. So watch this in India. Superior culture. These people are uniquely qualified.
What is that? What was that he poured? So if you give us some context, conspiracy brother, what's going on in this? What's she spreading? Ugh. So is that shit on the floor, and then that's? Can anybody hear me? It's just me talking.
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I had my mic muted. So yeah, so they gave her, to clean her spot on the ground. I'll play it again and kind of give a bit of understanding. She's cleaning her spot up off the ground. Then they bring her what looks like some type of curry, some beans or peas or something. She's eating that off the ground. Everybody's barefoot, walking around, wheeling around this cart of food, another portion of curry. They're feeding this woman and then rice. And so the guy says in the video, how come everybody else has some kind of leaf plate? How come she's just eating off the ground? How come you didn't bring her rice first? Why didn't you bring her rice so she could soak up all that gravy first?
Is that gravy? Is it great? Is it brown? What's that brown stuff that's on the ground at the start of the video?
Well, it's either a discoloration of the tile or dirt from the fact that it's tile, and I imagine people are walking on this on a more consistent basis than they're eating on it, and she's here with just cleaning it with her bare hand.
Wow.
And some
Either
water.
way,
Don't know if it's
either way, old girl eating it up off the floor. That's
right. Don't even know if it's warm water.
Oh,
you see the guys walking by barefoot. They're walking by barefoot. Let's see. So no, this is not one more. Let me see. I'll let me see.
Yeah, give it just one more.
Let
me do that. I got a video.
There's one more, maybe two. But the one that I want to show you is if I can find it, that could be good enough. Let's see.
You can find 10 or 12 of them riding on the same motorcycle.
Oh yeah, you can find 1 million. You could find 1.5 million. Mm-hmm. But so two. This is going to be one.
And I think things can't get any worse. This guy approaches a cow's asshole and gets himself a cup of piss. Brewing himself up.
Forgive me.
Oh, I've seen those. Okay, I don't know what you did.
A cow piss.
So here this guy is.
So let's go ahead and figure a few things out. Is it a case of the faster we open the lids, the better the food tastes? Why did you open the lids so aggressive? I bet you're proud of yourself that you made this little contraption. I bet you thought it was genius. And of course,
this white boy is angry.
So once upon a time, this ugly ass motherfucker.
Yeah, he's angry.
Yeah, he got a little.
Here you go.
Like smidge of racism, but that white boy.
But the thing I'll say, he's consistent about who he's got videos talking about white people. He's got videos talking about everybody. I don't know if it's I don't know if I would label it racism or if it's just he's telling jokes on the internet. People.
Yeah, if it's like
people are funny.
Every race or group, Yeah.
Right. But here's a guy. He's drinking pee from a cow. Straight up urine from a cow. He's putting it in some type of cup. First he caught it. He's stirring it with a stick.
Fermented piss.
And then he's putting it in his beverage container. And then he's drinking it. That's ultimately what's going to happen. He's going to chug it. And this is the superior culture. These people are uniquely qualified. These people are uniquely qualified to be CEOs, and they have a superior family culture and education. Just one more. This is the last one. I promise. This is the last one.
Right.
I promise. This will be the last one. But these people are uniquely qualified over American citizens to be CEOs or whatever. Right? This is what they want you to believe. This is what these people would have you believe. That you are not smart enough or you cannot be trained adequately enough to be able to handle whatever the demands of an engineering job or anything in the world.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh.
Here's the last one I'm going to show. Here's the last one I'm going to show.
And this is where you and I will have to.
And so check this out. I'll give another play-by-play. So this is a cow dung fight that it happens in India because cows are holy. They believe, if I'm not mistaken, every piece of the cow. So that's why the guy was drinking cow pee. They believe that it's all holy and that every piece of it is good for you and good to have. And so this man is covered in cow feces. He should be an engineer or a CEO or whatever. He's got some kind of unique family culture that predisposes him to success in the American system. Is that what I am to believe? Is that what I am supposed to believe? Or is this ultimately exploitation because these people are coming from such a desperate life that they're willing to accept and do any job that will allow them to escape the poverty and impoverishment that exists within their nation? The first clip I showed you were people who were in such a state on the train, and I'll stop sharing, that they actually were hanging on the side of the train because they didn't have room inside the train.
They got to get to work.
Second video.
Say it again. Got to get to work on time. They can't be late to work.
Right. But you guys haven't engineered a better system at home. You haven't pooled the resources and the money from working here in America to make a better system or way for yourselves at home. And this is what I'm asking, ultimately, and this is not a slight to Indian people or anything like that. But when Vivek or Elon, because Elon is an immigrant as well, when they say these types of things, we need to understand that these are slights that are used to undermine American workers. They're intended to exploit us. They're intended to keep us further disenfranchised so that they can continue to retain the majority of the money. H-1B visa program is an employee. You have to be sponsored by your employer. So what happens in a lot of those situations, let's say you're making $150,000 as an engineer on an H-1B visa, but you're doing a job that you may, under normal circumstances, the engineer may be entitled to $250,000 compensation. If you were, as an H-1B visa applicant or recipient, to complain, your boss could say, well, hey, look, I'll just cancel your H-1B visa and go get somebody else from India since you think that your compensation isn't good enough. And so what that will do is that will incline you and others in your position to just be quiet and accept whatever you get. Right? So right. It all works together to benefit the companies. I'll pull up your screen share. And we need to be mindful of that. We really do.
Yeah, it's like, it's equivalent to cheap child labor.
Yep.
That's what these corporations want to do, because Americans want to be and should be paid a fair wage, and they shouldn't settle for less. And the government should not be allowed to keep this exploitation, this cheap manual labor, whether you want to label it technical or otherwise. It's just exploitive. These jobs, Americans are more than capable of handling, but they don't want to pay Americans a decent, fair wage. It's just like how you have people from other countries, to pick the oranges or, to clean the garbage and things like this. And then you say, okay, well, Americans don't want to take these jobs. They're too lazy. No, they're not too lazy, but Americans are smart enough to know that they should be paid a fair wage. And with that fair wage should come benefits. So there needs to be a lot of reform in this country concerning labor.
Mm-hmm. Amen, Pastor Green. I know. Once again, guys, I'll do a quick plug. Y'all are watching Uncomfy Truths. We're going a little long tonight, but guess what? This is a conversation needs to be had. We're still deep diving on the H1B, H-1B conversation. So follow us on Rumble. We are also on YouTube. You can also follow us on Odyssey. So this clip, I want to just set up and it's a longer clip, but I think it's very relevant. This is from Matt Kim. I only got on Matt Kim recently. I believe Conspiracy Brother, you shared me a clip. They had an episode go viral a few weeks ago about usury. And I've never seen like two Asians talking this transparent about how they get slighted and how they talk, how they're just exposing what's really going on. So they did an episode about a lot of the sort of the caste system when it comes to, part of the Jewish population, a lot of what we're not supposed to talk about, the theys, and how literally you can go into, if you're Jewish, you can go into certain banks if you're like of a certain tier or in a caste system and get 0 interest loans, so they talked about that, very transparent, just very, hey, this is how it is. I had a Jewish business partner that just told me all this, and that episode went viral. And I believe, they got a bigger following now, but I think they did this conversation too, which I think what you talked about, Conspiracy Brother, with the caste system, Pastor Green, what you talked about with bringing in these people to drive down wages, they hit home at that, but I think they they deep dive just a level deeper, which I really appreciate. So I want to play this clip. I think we should be able to get through all of it. But if anybody has a question or want me to pause it, or just post in the chat, because it is a longer clip at about 10 minutes. But I think this is a very good. I don't think anybody, especially like even the Asians, are having this sort of transparent conversation. They touch on the Indian caste system too. So here we go.
And we'll say, well, it's easy. It's not easy for these people to get in. It's a huge process and a program. But the reality is, we've known it for years, and people have been talking about this for years, is that the whole program itself is fraudulent. Obama started this program. And that there are agencies and brokers and entire industry in India that helps people get their family members here. They fake documents, they fake their credentials, they fake their degrees. They come here, they learn the job. Like, no, we need the best and the brightest because we need qualified workers. Well, that's not what you're getting. You're not.
The question is, and at least this is where I'm sitting, what line do you sit on? Do you sit on a, hey, stop the bleeding, period, full stop? Or is it okay to have provisions for other individuals or certain select class of people to come in? Where do you sit? Do you think it's just right now everything's crazy and we just need to stop the bleeding?
I do think we need to stop the bleeding. I think that things are such a mess right now. And it's similar as what they're trying to propose with the budget, which is the federal budget, which is they want to increase it because they need new programs in order to fix problems. Like, okay,
no, you mean the programs that didn't work previously?
What you need to do is you need to shut the whole thing down, figure out what's actually wrong, and if you say you can fix it, great, fix it. Fix it first. And once you've proven that you can fix it, and you say, do you know what? I've been competent. I've shown my worth. I've shown that I'm able to do the things I promised to do. We need more workers. Great. Let's have a conversation now. Don't ask for more shit when you haven't done your part yet. Yeah, I think that's so fair, so logical. And people are like, no, like you need to solve this problem first. Like, no, there's an order of business.
Yes.
You can't just start band-aiding solutions without fixing core issues.
I think it's important. If you have water in your basement, you turn off the water.
Yes.
You don't keep the water running.
And let's just put although I did see the infomercial of that the patch that you put on the wall and it stops anything. I'm like, bro, that's sick.
You keep the water going. Actually, it's still good. You should actually poke holes.
What's that patch
Just
called?
so if your basement's underwater, you stop the water. You stop the bleeding, which is the most rational thing. And I think what's interesting is that I think part of this fire starter is it's Elon, the savior of the world.
Yes.
The great Messiah, our great tech bro, God on high. I feel like he might end up becoming eaten by his own followers in this because, like, he's supposed to be the savior of the alt-right, right? But now he's letting in these Indians, these people. So what's the dissonance?
And people say, well, it's easy. It's not easy for these people to get in. There's a huge process and a program. But the reality is, and we've known it for years, and people have been talking about this for years, is that the whole program itself is fraudulent. Obama started this program. And that there are agencies and brokers, an entire industry in India that most people get their family members here. They fake documents, they fake their credentials, they fake their degrees. They come here, they learn the job. Like, no, we need the best and the brightest because we need qualified workers. Well, that's not what you're getting. You're not at all. I've never spoken to an engineering manager in Silicon Valley going, oh, yeah, we get the best and brightest from India. No, that's just objectively not true. Anyone that's telling you that is either ignorant and they don't know, or they're just blatantly lying to you, which is just as bad. Tech bros that are leading our society at this very moment, they are lying straight to your face.
Oh, wait, hold on. Get through this ad. Hold on a second.
Hi, Jara. We brought you here today to
All right. It gets good. It gets better. Hold on.
You want to say something?
of these tech companies, not only do they import Indian labor, because they actually don't need to import it if they didn't want to, right? Because most people actually work in decentralized teams. People are all over the world. They do that perfectly well. Actually, if there's talent they really want, they just stay in the country of origin and they work together remote. There's no problem with that.
There's really no need for them to be coming in our borders.
They only bring them in because it fuels that auxiliary parallel economy that they're all benefiting from.
That, what you said, I think I want to say two things. The first thing I want to say is the machine behind the entire visa application is a hundreds of maybe probably billion-dollar industry. And I don't think I'm over-exaggerating it, because I've seen the underbelly of that when I was in India. There are in America, we have recruiting firms. You can find your Randstad, recruiting firm in the corner over here, right? In India, they have those in India, but they're not recruiting firms. They're, how can we scoot? You pay me $5,000, whatever the price is. I can ensure we can scoot you around every legal framework and make sure that you can get, fast tracked. Like, I've seen it. So it exists. It's a huge industry, huge, and it's the fact that it's so huge tells you the malfeasance that goes behind it. Like, why is there so much money behind this, helping people circumvent our laws? Like, that's crazy. Like, if you were the king, if America had a king, the king would look at this and say, you guys are circumventing our laws to get into our country. And it's like $1 billion enterprise over there. Shut it down. Number two, I thought about this for a second, but I'm going to say it. As someone who has, let's just say, seen thousands of resumes of nearshore, offshore applicants, I will tell you, I can't say almost. I've never been impressed with a single Indian applicant who was applying for a highly specialized technical position. It was not that it was the full package. They lacked the sophistication, they lacked the communication ability, they lacked that one nuance, they lacked the maturity, they lacked the ability to functionally decompose their idea. I've never heard one. And I paused to say that before because I was searching through my soul and I was like, have I actually hired? And the answer is, I never was impressed, and I've never actually hired one from India because they were the better choice between the options I had here stateside.
What people fail to recognize is that the technologists, because we're talking about technologists now, the technologists that are extremely highly competent and sought after in China, they stay in China because they are very well taken care of. They become extremely rich by staying home. The same goes for Korea. Those guys that do extremely well in technology, there's no incentive for them to come here and work for Elon and Tesla making $80,000 or $100,000 a year. They become filthy rich by staying where they are. And they're treated like kings. Same thing for India. You're not getting the best of the best. You're getting the people that themselves in their own countries, they didn't want them. And now we're arguing that we need to bring more of them in when we have qualified people here. You just don't want to pay them more.
That's the third thing, is that I find it to be a complete farce. We have the most intelligent engineering individuals on the planet in America, period, full stop, no doubt. Now, it's the price tag of a senior Java architect, $380,000, absolutely, and they're worth every penny. The problem is most companies aren't willing to pay $300,000 for a senior architect who can do everything under the sun. And so they're willing to pay $85,000 for someone who has a resume and it looks like it, but it also looks like it was ChatGPT-ized, if you know what I mean.
But the argument is not coming from those medium, small-sized companies saying we need more laborers. It's for the big companies that can afford to pay the $300,000 price tag that are saying we don't want to pay. And the reality is the companies of the world like Google, who 10 years ago, if you were a software engineer and you got an offer from Google, that was like, oh my God, dude, I applied to Google. My life is set. I get to work for Google.
Yeah.
The best don't want to work for Google anymore. Why? It's all filled with low-level Indian engineers. They don't want to be associated with that anymore. They ruined their own culture, and they want to use those same mentalities and tactics that they ruined the culture of their own countries and roll that out into how they run America, which is bullshit, because you have yet to prove that you can do it well, but you want to do it at a larger scale. It's the whole problem of Kamala and failing them. He's developed good technologies, yes. If you build a shit culture and failed miserably at it, yes. Two things can be true at once.
That's true. That's true. So this rhetoric from you, man, seems pretty, if I can go to the extreme, pretty isolationist, and somewhat nationalistic of you to say. It sounds like you're, dare I say, America and Americans first.
I think that I live here, my family is here, my parents are here, my child is born here, will be raised here. I want America to be the best country possibly in the world. Why? Because this is where I live. This is where I've set my roots. This is where I will continue to live. And you notice the tech oligarchs trying to play God with our lives. And you're like, no, that's not it. Because they don't care. They're clearly not America first. Because if they were America first, they'd be trying to figure out, how do we help the education system? How do we help the people around us? How do we raise up people that may be younger? How do we let them grow? Instead of bringing in Indian engineers that are learning on the job anyway, just so that we can pay them less.
All right. Conspiracy brother, Pastor William Green, whoever wants to just kind of give your thoughts. Just more confirmation, obviously.
If I could say this, about 100 years ago, we said, give me your hungry, give me your tired. And immigrants from around the world came through Ellis Island. Well, we don't need to say that no more. Our hungry, our tired are right here in America. American citizens. When you look at all the home, and it's amazing, when you think about Silicon Valley and, it's being in California or whatever's left in California. I know that's going to be an other part of our conversation, but when you look at all the people who were laid off from these companies so they could cut corners, these are some of the same people who were now homeless. So, American tech industry has done this country a great disservice by bringing foreigners in to take their jobs. And as we said earlier, we alluded to earlier, this destabilizes the economy of America. And it needs to stop. And again, I say we need to demand that all this tech industry, whether it be Apple, Google, Microsoft, go to American cities and start schools. Train children for these jobs.
That's exactly what they were just talking about, and that's what you even mentioned before. Yes. So I love that full 180. That's it. That's it. But it's America last to them. No, we got to get these people from across the sea. Yeah, they couldn't have put any better. You couldn't have wrapped it up any better. Conspiracy brother, I got 2 clips left. I know we've been on this a while. These are the last 2 clips. But conspiracy brother, any additional commentary on the Matt Kim, Agile Peter? Basically, they're what they were talking about. Just more.
Well, yeah,
more confirmation, basically.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. But I think one of the other things you look at too, when you have these people in these positions, they're more likely to do things that infringe upon our rights because they don't have a concept of what our rights are. I remember when Prince William, when him and his wife first moved over here, he said something about like either something Donald Trump said or something somebody was saying. And it's like, bro, we got a constitution with a First Amendment. Like, we can kind of say whatever we want. And that concept, it was like he was complaining about it. Like, I just can't believe that you could just say whatever you want to say. It just seems like that shouldn't be. And it's like, well, it's funny you should say that. Your great, great, great whoever is the reason we have this. You know what I'm saying? And so you have, like, think about that doctor on CNN, Leanna Wen, that Chinese doctor or Taiwanese or something. Like,
the COVID propagandist.
She has no concept of the freedoms that we have in this country at a native level.
Right.
CCP Empress. Right. So because these things are not native to her, in that she was born here and learned these things from her childhood to be regarded as a inalienable right endowed by your creator, she doesn't regard them as such, right? She thinks there are decencies that supersede your constitutional rights. And so he wants to say, well, hey, you should have to be sequestered from society if you don't take a vaccination, even if you don't want to, and all these other weird things. And so this is something that you see too. The same way with them trying to make allowances for non-citizens to become police officers or join the military. You have people who have no concept of American laws. This is why when I said earlier, it's up to us to make sure that we train the young people so they know the past, so they cannot be tricked, right? Because if they don't know the past and they can be tricked in the future, then the cycle of tricking and misleading and lying will be continued. It will be perpetuated. And so, that's all I have.
Hey, man. All right. So I got 2 clips left, y'all. I know we've been on this topic a little while, but I feel like we're cooking and we got to get through this. So I would say also too, like, a lot of people don't think about whether you voted for Trump, whether you voted for Kamala. We wouldn't even be having this H-1B conversation if Kamala was elected. It would have been full steam ahead, open borders, legal immigration, yes, illegal immigration even more. So I think some people may not realize it, but the fact that we did get Trump reelected is the fact that some of this turmoil kind of goes back to 2023 with the House sort of mutiny against Kevin McCarthy and Matt Gaetz leading that. We need shaking up. We need chaos. We need not an entire political party to just walk in lockstep. What the House reps were able to do, would sort of force the vote on McCarthy. AOC even admitted off camera to Matt Gaetz, oh, I wish we had the courage to do that to Pelosi. She said the quiet part out loud. She spilled the tea. So I think this sort of growing pains where we have sort of a divide, it started with Israel, Palestine, that sort of divided the right. And now our newest division on the right is this H-B1, which I think is a very healthy divide to have debate, to have discourse, to not be this march in lockstep with the cult that the Democrats tend to do. So, like, hate it or love it, I think if Kamala was elected, some people are kind of more neutral, socialist. Well, it could have been, I would have took, Jill Stein over Kamala. Well, if Kamala, there wouldn't be any sort of America First H-1B conversation. It would have just been full steam ahead. So it did take the growing pain of a Trump win to end up having this debate among the right about the H-1B1. So I wanted to play the rest of this Jimmy Dore clip. This is a good clip where he talks about more of what we talked about with, like, even Boeing hiring these $9 engineers. So this is a great clip. And then I'll finish with the last one.
Yeah. So he's talking about the true grit and all that. These are the families that think they built America, these rich families. There's a History Channel. The men who built America, Carnegie, they're the ones who created the crappy school system on purpose to try to then move on to globalism. So all that grit, it was being driven by a bunch of the same assholes. It's just America's too small for them now. Now they're world citizens and soon to be Martian.
Boeing, this is from Bloomberg. Boeing 737 MAX software outsourced to $9 an hour engineer.
And by the way, this is from June 2019, y'all. Bloomberg June 2019 article from Boeing, just for context. And look at Boeing now, the last year or two.
That's what
1%.
That's one of the top engineering companies in the world. When they can do this, that's what they did.
Boeing crashes this week too. That's an exciting time to get this news. It went to Niner.
It remains the mystery at the heart of Boeing Company's 737 MAX crisis. How a company renowned for its meticulous design made seemingly basic software mistakes, leading to a pair of deadly crashes. It's a mystery. I don't know, $9 an hour engineers.
You know, my grandfather was an engineer for Boeing and had a family and a house and all that from it. He didn't even go to college. He was one of the first people to fly planes. And back then, you didn't have to have a degree. And he worked for them for many years and retired. Like, I guess maybe bands talking about that kind of grit or something. That's gone. All that stuff that they talk about, these companies don't care about it at all. The same with comedy, the same with movies, the same with your goddamn pharmaceuticals. They don't care about the quality of the thing itself. They care about pump and dump. Everything's pump and dump.
If your dog is destructive at home and you are
one more
spending a lot
ad.
of money replacing or fixing those items, I have a...
They're always the same enemies. American workers always have the same enemies. And they are they're monopolies, banks, and corruption. And now the billionaire class. Boeing 737, it's a long-time Boeing engineers say the effort was complicated by a push to outsource work to lower paid contractors.
Well, complicated. Well, what, is it like a hurricane? A push just came in from the east.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? It was complicated by push from you.
So this
assholes at Boeing.
That's right. This is when companies are run on quarterly profits to please Wall Street and the billionaire class,
who are building bunkers even now.
Okay. So that's Bannon going to war with Elon, and he says that the people in Silicon Valley hate America.
Well, unfortunately,
and they want to have a feudal system where they're serfs, and that's exactly what they want. Look how they think of workers. Look how they think of MAGA. Go F yourself in your face.
Like royalists, like there's a royalist factor.
That's right.
The Anglo-American world power, not the Jews, the Anglo-American world power that believes they're royalty. And there's all deep state. One faction is the royalist global kind, and the other is the illusion of America was good. Look, you never get that two-party kind of dichotomy. You never escape that. You're gonna get the new world order no matter what.
She's on tour in Los Angeles.
Okay, all right. So, all right, y'all. This is the last clip I want to play. It's only like 8 minutes, but basically, I think this kind of sums it up on how we talk about how. Both of you guys mentioned how people will get imported over here, willing to work under lower conditions, willing to take lower pay. And once again, they drive down the wages. They are what drive out the unions. And they once again cause people to once again dilute the American culture, the patriotism, the lack of unity. And it just becomes a nation of just sort of mixed foreigners where they're not assimilating. I think what's really funny is that there was an episode of Jason Whitlock I listened to a while back. He had an interview with John Rocker. I think he was the first. He was an MLB pitchman or some. He had some baseball position in MLB, mid to late 90s. Yeah, you familiar, Pastor Green? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in essence probably one of the first celebrities to ever get like quote unquote canceled. In 1999, he said some things, and a Sports Illustrated writer just did a little hit piece on him and canceled him. He killed his career.
About the train, about who was on the trains in New York City.
Yeah, about the trains and like, I look on my left and I see like a gay person with AIDS. I look to my right, I see a foreigner does speak English. It was a little sensationalized, but he made a really good point when it comes to assimilation, the lack of cultural similarities, the coming over, the no vetting. We don't know if they could, drive cars with the level of competence. We're getting car crashes. There's no citizenship classes. There's no sense of, hey, when you get over here, you got to speak English by this time. You have to assimilate and learn this. And it just goes to show, I think they do a great deep dive on what the India sort of caste system is like and how coming over here and just sort of the disrespect and not wanting to assimilate. That's kind of what John Rocker was talking about in his interview with Jason Whitlock over at the Fearless show. So I don't want to, we'll end with this unless anyone has anything else they want to comment on before I play this. Anyone have anything else they want to touch on? Then we can move on after this video. Nope. Okay. All right. Play this last one, and we're going to move on to the LA County wildfires. So we'll play this last clip to round out our H-1B discussion.
So can I tell you a pattern that I noticed? I'll give a little bit more context because I feel like I'm a racist. I feel like I'm about to tell a story. I feel like I'm about to tell a story that I'm going to get in trouble for again. But you know what? Here we go. So quick asterisk right there. Feels like I'm not going to do that again. So I have lived in India for 6 months. I've been there. I worked with Tata, TCS. They're like the big Microsoft that I just said. They're like the Samsung to Korea. Like everything runs off Tata. People don't realize Tata makes computers. They make cars. They make silverware. They make tables. They make everything just like the Samsung. Well, I did a contract with them. It was an agile consulting opportunity with them with multiple teams across Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai. And I will tell you, Matthew, the number one takeaway from my 6 months in India was that culture has a scarcity mindset. You know what that means? A scarcity mindset. And this is just my opinion. A guy who was there a decade and a half ago, younger man, ignoramus, fine. But when I came back and I told my wife about all this experience, I just said the number one thing that I've amalgamated from this culture is a scarcity mindset. And what I mean by that is that by default, they live in a world where everything they believe is scarce. There is no abundance. Like in America, I think you would be hard pressed to find an individual or person in America that has a scarcity mindset. You can be homeless and be given an EBT card of $5,000 on it. Like in America, you've seen really chunky and overweight homeless people. It's like, how are you getting fed? But in India, living there, riding around on a 125cc auto bike, that's what they call them there, auto bike. Number one, it's managed chaos. No one obeys any traffic rules. The only thing that you obey is the cow. The cow comes in, like you stop for the cow, you worship the cow, you eat the poo, right? But you will not stop for a red light, but you'll stop for a cow. That's number one. Number two, this is the only country that I've visited many, only country where I saw starving people and I saw dead people on the side of the streets. There is a carelessness, unfortunately, in so much of that culture. And you might say, Peter, you're so... No, I'm telling you what I saw. I've been to Korea, Japan, all over Asia, China. I never saw a dead body in Korea. Have you? Never. I've never seen a starving body in Tokyo. I've never seen a starving body or a naked child I think is dead in China, Shanghai. But I saw them in Hyderabad. I saw them in Bangalore. And so, why does all this context matter? Your experience with those women, they have a scarcity mindset. They think everything's scarce. They need to get everything and grab everything. And you might say, well, Peter, maybe it's because of their upbringing, maybe it's because of their culture. I don't know what the answer is.
And just for context, what he's talking about is that Matt Kim, the other Asian guy, was talking about how in this, I think it was called Coming Georgia. The host lives in Georgia. He took his daughter to this Easter egg hunt in Cumming, Georgia. And Cumming, Georgia has had a big influx of Indian residents that have been coming, like imported. And he was basically saying how when they started doing the Easter egg hunt with the little kids, running after the eggs, and it's like an event that's open to the public. You pay $5 and you and your kid get to go in and the kids run around and grab the eggs. There were grown Indian women. Once again, I'm not saying this is all Indian people, but particularly there were grown Indian women running around, grabbing the eggs. This was food, pushing the kids out the way and grabbing the eggs out of what's supposed to be a kid family friendly event where you watch the kids run around and grab the eggs. You got grown adult Indian women grabbing eggs, putting them in their dresses and just ganging up and grabbing all the eggs. And that's a small example of the scarcity mindset of different cultures that don't come in and assimilate. They don't adopt our values or know our ways. And that's a small example that I wanted to, give some context on.
Is that when I lived in India, I saw two things: scarcity mindset and deep poverty.
Well, would it be fair to say that the America that we used to be, the America that we aspire to be, and that a lot of us want us to get back to, is a high trust society?
Yes.
I live in an area that's a high trust society. If I leave my car door locked, I'm not worried that someone's going to break into my car. If I leave something out, I'm not worried that someone's going to steal my Amazon package. If anything, they're going to return it to the rightful person, and they will go out of their way to make sure that I get it.
Yes.
Because I live in an area that is a high trust society. Mm-hmm. India, it's normalized and almost elevates people who scam.
Yes, that's a big part of their economy.
Therefore, everyone is always on edge. Everyone is always distrustful of the people around them. And the people that you do business with, or the people that are considered your friends, you have to worry about them the most because they can take advantage of you, which is normalized behavior. So they live in a very low trust society.
That's another way of putting it. Yes, they live in a low trust society and a scarcity mindset, where it's like I've seen moments when I was in India when they had the food and they would share it together. Like, of course, they're using their hands because no one uses utensils there. But the amount of aggressive grabbing of food was just like, not only is it not appealing for me to partake in this with you guys because you guys are all throwing your hands around, but you're grabbing it so aggressively. Like, the food's not going to walk away. I'm just going to steal your food here. Like, bro, aren't we among colleagues and friends? Like, didn't we just have 5 meetings together at the corporation and now we're having beer and food? Like, why are you guys so aggressive with the food? And it was always this like, me first. And I think this isn't everybody, but it was enough where it was like, you know what, this makes me uncomfortable. Like, I don't enjoy being within this cultural nuance. And maybe, again, it's because I'm Asian looking and whatever, and maybe that caused some bias or what have you, but it was pretty substantial. It left a mark on me in terms of the amount of poverty again and the amount of self-interest and scarcity mindset in India was very, very obvious to me.
India is the number one country of importing people into the United States.
Currently, right now.
Currently. It's been like that for years. Actually,
you mean the legal means?
Correct.
Yes.
There are more legal immigrants from India today, actually double the amount there was 3 years ago.
Yes.
So the amount of people coming from India grow actually almost exponentially. It's over 1 million come from India every year. And right now, America is running into a social crisis, a cultural crisis, where they're trying to figure out how to get back to being a high trust society, more conservative values, more family oriented. And you take this and you throw in a huge group of people that come from a low trust society and you put them into these kind of more affluent areas, and it's creating chaos everywhere. And that's why that there are people on the hard right. They're like, no, maybe we should pause this whole India thing for now.
So with that, you've used some terminology in today's podcast that I'm not correcting you. I just think it's a little aggressive sometimes. But to be fair, and to be 100% honest with everybody out there, I'm also a little sensitive right now. So I'm not pulling any punches, guys. I'm gonna let you know. Like, I'm a little sensitive. Because you want to be fair about what we talk about, because these are real. You're not lying to me. I know that you had this experience. You know that I had this experience. We got receipts. Like, we're not lying. We're not over exaggerating this stuff here. This is just what we see. And so I think for us as social commentators, the question is, and at least this is where I'm sitting, what line do you sit on? Do you sit on a, hey, stop the bleeding, period, full stop? Or is it okay to have provisions for other individuals or certain select class of people to come in? Where do you sit, man? Do you think it's just right now everything's crazy and we just need to stop the bleeding?
I do think we need to stop the bleeding. I think that things are such a mess right now.
All right. So, yeah, end of the day, who you let into your country is going to have consequences. And are these people coming here to contribute, to be about equal opportunity, or are they just here to get whatever they want to get, whether they're Haitian, whether they're Asian, whether they're Indian, or, whatever race it is. So these are just questions we just have to ask. So I just want to kind of leave it at that. Anybody any other closing statements on that topic before we move on?
Closing statement on that topic, I would like to
go right ahead.
Coming from India, we have to be cognizant that there is a spiritual aspect of this also, of those that we're letting in from that country. Because, in India, they believe in reincarnation. The reason why they have just as much livestock in the street, because they believe that's their relative. You have actual temples in India where they feed rats because they feel the rat is their relative. So that's a satanic mindset that has controlled that country for eons. And we have to be mindful of that we're letting that type of spirit come into this country.
That's a great caveat. That's a great point. Conspiracy brother, anything else before we move on to the LA wildfires?
Yeah, I think this also illustrates the point I made earlier about how levels of immigration can directly correlate to a diminished quality of life for a lot of those same reasons they talked about. You have a group of people who come from a country where the standard of living is lesser, where the expectations from their government is lesser. And so our government, for example, preys upon those people's expectations or whatever their experiences are, or uses those tendencies that they have or behaviors that they have as a means to undermine the native born population. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's just like I was like this past summer I was at a state park. The state what is it, St. Clair State Park? Kind of out by Clinton Township.
Like area. Over near Metro Park?
Yeah, like one of the Metro Parks, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been and so I remember being a kid, and you go to the park and you had to actually prove to them that your swimming trunks had a liner in it, or they wouldn't let you in. Like when you were a kid, you had to show them your trunks had a liner because it's a state park, or it's either a state park or it's like a county funded park and you had to pay or whatever. But we went over there this past summer and there were some people in there. They seemed to they spoke Spanish, so my assumption is that they just got over here,
right?
But it was fresh up here, and it was some ladies and some couple guys, but it was mostly ladies, and a few of the ladies had full length denim skirts on, and they were in the pool. They weren't swimming outfits at all. The guys had on blue jean shorts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I remember as a kid, you couldn't go in, you couldn't even say, hey, these are just basketball shorts.
Right.
You had to have on swimming trunks.
Yeah.
And if you weren't, if you didn't show the liner in your trunks, you couldn't swim as a child. These are full-grown people, and they're wearing denim skirts, full length, ankle length skirts. And
well, can you blame them? The park probably long cut the budget for an actual lifeguard to pay enough to actually
there were 3 lifeguards. There were 3 lifeguards. Yeah, there were still 3 lifeguards. They still had the people checking. But what I'm saying, either they made a special allowance for these people to get in, or the whole standard that we expect from participants in these activities is diminished. So they operate either in a 2-tiered system where you make a special allowance for so-called immigrants, or these what do you call it? Not impoverished, but
no, that's exactly what's happening. It's a protected class.
These protected individuals,
protected class, and to your point, it's part of the woke ideology oppression totem pole. So you got at the very bottom, like a heterosexual white man. Then you got like the gay guy. And then you got a white woman, and then a black woman, then a gay black woman, then a trans, and then at the top, somewhere near the top, is a legal migrant. I don't know if either trans or the illegal migrant. One of those two is at the top of the totem pole as far as the most oppressed, the most quote unquote oppressed, and the most protected class. You're absolutely right. The new tiered class, which they tried to do during COVID, was vaccinated and then unvaccinated, where you're the second class. But now it's become, since COVID didn't work, it's now illegal migrants, and then trans are at the top of that protected class. You're absolutely right. And I'm pretty sure the lifeguard didn't want to say anything to them, but they would happily turn to anybody that looks American and then get on their back about it. But yeah, you, conspiracy brother, I wanted to just point on that.
And so ultimately, you diminish the quality of life for everybody in this country who's used to there being a certain standard for the way we do things, right? And then you just seem like it's something like you can remember your grandparents or maybe your parents saying, or going out to eat, going to a restaurant, or going driving or whatever when you were with your grandparents as a kid, and them complaining about the way something is now and how it used to be better. And you're thinking as a kid, like, oh, just get over it. But I find myself personally, I find myself saying that every day.
Come on.
It used to be better. It used to be better. It used to be better. Every day, the standard, the quality of whatever is just diminishing. And it used to be better. And it's getting worse and worse and worse every day. So that's it. That's it for me.
All right. That's it. All right, y'all. Moving on. Once again, Uncomfy Truths. Feel free to follow us on Rumble as well as YouTube and Odyssey. We're going to have some shorter content we're going to start releasing this year. More bite-sized chunks for you you ADHD folks out there. Can't watch a clip longer than 10 minutes. We got you. We got some shorter content coming your way. So yeah, follow us on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. Next topic, we got the LA County wildfires. So this has been what you would call a barn burner, no pun intended, last few days. And I guess this kind of hits a little personal for me because I actually recently moved back to the great state of Michigan. I lived in California for almost 6 years, in an undisclosed industry. I ain't trying to give away too much about me. But I did live out there for a good time, SoCal, lived around Los Angeles, Ventura County, Palm Springs, Big Bear. I kind of seen it all around that SoCal. And this has just been part of a long, ongoing problem that we've seen here, whether it's the fact that for years there's been wars over the water control. And I believe, Conspiracy Brother, you shared something about this one family kind of, the last decades have been just the privatizing of public commons, including the water sources, and how the fires break out and there's no water out of the hydrants, and just how the years of them phasing away prescribed burns and clearing brush. Same problem with Lahaina. And I moved back to Michigan in the fall, and I went to LA actually this past week. I was actually there just doing a little visit. I got there Monday before the wildfire started, and I left I left Friday and just got back and escaped it. So just crazy how even a lot of the reasons I moved out of California, this was one of them. And this just reinforced, like, damn, I can't even go back and visit for a few days without some shit popping off, So I like to go ahead. I think that showing the death toll stands at about 16. The biggest parts of California that were hit pretty bad was Pacific Palisades. I've been out there before. A lot of nice, fancy restaurants, very affluent area, kind of like a Birmingham of Michigan, if you would imagine. And then also Pasadena, more middle working class, mid working class. But once again, they got hit really hard. And the biggest thing is not only just the incompetence, in my opinion, of the government corruption, the lacking of the water management, and the lack of the water management, but also it's one of those things where when people who first moved to California, at least 5-6 years ago, it used to be, a wildfire happens, but it's only during wildfire season, between this month and that month, this month and that month of the year. And then it only happens in these areas. They never get to the urban areas because fire just can't travel like that. So it used to be, up until at least 4, 5, 6 years ago, commonplace that wildfires happen between this month and that month, and they only hit these areas. Those days are long gone. It's sadly common knowledge. And another reason of my 40 reasons I left California is the fact that now wildfire, they say this little common phrase: every season is wildfire season. Every season is wildfire season. And now a wildfire can happen anywhere at any time. Now, there's some agendas behind some of these fires. I have my theories. But at the same time, even if it did just happen out of random, it's just pretty crazy with these high winds that roll off of the beach shore, that roll off of what they call the Santa Ana Mountains. Whether it's happening deliberately, which I think there is part of that, or not, either way, it's just a shit show on top of a shit show. And it's just very troubling if you need any more convincing to not leave LA. If you need any more convincing to leave LA, then I don't know what's wrong with you. But some people just have to be part of the machine. They need the LA status. Like, I live in LA, you're barely paying your rent. You're working 4 or 5 different gigs, but you see the Titanic ship, sinking right before your eyes. So I'm gonna leave that for another day. But go ahead. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead and give your thoughts on these wildfires. Is it just another tragedy, or more that meets the eye?
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely more that meets the eye. I did a documentary around 2019 about the wildfires that was happening. And back then, it was when they had the drought.
Mm-hmm.
It was I really believe that those fires were an act of God, because this is around the same time that California made pedophilia legal.
Mm.
And they was talking all this nonsense about, minor attracted individuals. And there were several, once California passed that law, you remember the law where they said, well, as long as the adult and the child are 10 years apart, then it's legal.
Yeah, okay? I think the UN was pushing that.
Yeah, well, they did it in California. And shortly after they enacted that law, there were several electrical storms and lightning strikes that started those fires around 2019 and 20 when they had the drought situation. And when it comes to a drought situation, that's even biblical the way it was happening in California, because it would not rain in California. And when you look at scripture, okay, when you had King Ahab and Jezebel, when they defied God, it didn't rain in California. It didn't rain for 3 years. And I believe that drought in California was 3 years. So it's no such thing. It wasn't no coincidence. But since then, I believe all these fires were done by intentionally, so they can justify the falsehood of global warming. Because listen, these woods are not just combusting on their own. These fires lately in the last 2 to 2 years, this has been done by intention. They set these fires. Someone has set these fires. I mean, when you see, and it's not natural, because when you see the intensity of how fast those fires spread and how fast they spread into neighborhoods, it's intentional. And it's already been documented and proven that they emptied the reservoirs 2 weeks ago. And now you have these fires. So for whatever sick reason, these people in government in California, Gavin Newsom and others, who all they're concerned about is DEI, homosexual rights, these are the people who have inflicted this on the citizens of California, the leadership. Why are you draining and emptying dams when you know your area could be succumbed to fires? I mean, the fact that there was no water in the fire hose, in the fire hydrants, that's unacceptable. And someone needs to go to jail behind that. Someone in the government, whether it be Gavin Newsom or whoever is responsible for this, people need to go to jail, because people have suffered unnecessarily, and you don't have to be Smokey the Bear to prevent fires. It's just common sense. And I yield.
Mike drop past the grain. Conspiracy brother, take it away. What we got going on here? We got Lahaina. I'm getting Lahaina and East Palestine vibes.
Well, so the interesting thing about you bringing up Lahaina and stuff in Hawaii, I thought the same thing when it was going down. Like, man, this is pretty interesting. Like, this is wild, and what were they saying? The power lines were still active, so they hadn't deactivated the power lines in LA. And then with the issues with the fire hydrants, and they were short on equipment. Now I've heard different numbers, about the funding being cut, to the fire department. And then we saw that clip about them and their police chief and the deputy police chief, the video the deputy police chief put out talking about, they were saying, will she be able to carry my husband out of a burning building? And the deputy chief says something like, if your husband needs to be carried out of a fire, he did something wrong. And it's like, well, obviously, man, he's in a fire. Like, nobody in a fire is ever claimed to have done the right thing. Like, but that's not the kind of thing you'd say to a person who's in a fire. Like, it's ridiculous that the deputy chief would say this in any case. But so that got me to thinking, like, is there some kind of because there's something going on. But then a coworker was telling me something he had read about that land over there. It was some kind of they wanted something with that land, because they're, like, I was listening to Tara Reid. She was on RT and she was talking about basically how when it comes time to rebuild, the homeowners and the landowners are not going to be able to bid afford to rebuild on that land, all that land is going to get bought up by property developers and stuff. And so they're going to take that land and do what they want. And so just like in that same way that they were trying to do with Lahaina, because Lahaina was prime real estate, if you look at the Pacific Palisades, that's beachfront property, really, really close to the water. So a lot of those people, a lot of that land is going to be desirable for developers and people like that. So I'm suspicious about it all. It just seems really weird that you'd have a fire hydrant that doesn't have water. Like, that just doesn't make sense. I don't know how you have, at minimum, in a place, in a state, in a city, or in an area of a city with such high rates of wildfires, that you would have, a shortage of fire hydrants, or at least that they wouldn't be fully operational. And then you remember, or at least they were saying, that the insurance companies had canceled, like a couple months ago. They canceled the fire protection on all the policies of the homeowners, or whatever, of the policy holders. And so I think they passed a law banning that practice for a year. So it's at least going to allow people who are affected by this to, they're going to be able to file insurance claims on their damage to their houses. But it's all interesting, and I don't think, I don't think anything is a coincidence. So I believe all this stuff is orchestrated. I don't think any of this is coincidental at all, because it seems like it fits too well into the same structures as before. Like I said about Lahaina, they had been trying for a long time to buy that property from developers, and it was like a place that was sacred to Native Hawaiians, and they weren't interested in selling. But now, because it's been reduced to ash, can be bought up, and the people who own that property, for whatever reason, have no claim to purchase it or whatever anymore. I don't know how it works, but apparently, I guess if your place burns down, you lose all right to the house. I guess the land, if you don't own the land on it or whatever. I don't know at all. I for the life of me, I can't figure out why it works this way, but it appears to work this way in this country. And so, yeah, man, Gavin Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, because all of them are, as far as the presidency is concerned, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are still in office. Pastor Green dropped off. But they are still in office. So it is weird to me, that this is allowed to happen in this way, and these guys are still in office, calling the shots supposedly. But I think there's something else going on in the background, really. But I guess that's always what I say. But
yeah, there's just a lot going on. I think Jimmy Dore has done a good job of. They did a video on, once again, Trump. He brings up good points as far as, for years, you just got to call a spade a spade. He called out a lot of the water mismanagement. Actually, there's a good video with Due Dissidents. I'm actually pull that up real quick, where they talked about there was like this little fish called a smelt, that basically they were using as like a scapegoat to say, this is why we have to divert the water and save it for this fish that really doesn't do anything. But they called out a lot of what Trump was saying. And let me see if I can find the video real quick. Where's the water? Okay. Yeah, so Due Dissidents did a great job of this. I'm gonna share this video while we wait for Pastor Green to get back. 1 second. It's a good one. Let's see here. Okay. Stop sharing this. Okay, here we go. All right, share my screen right now. Did you see this one yet? Conspiracy brother? Do dissidents.
Your screen share went away.
You see this one? Do
I
dissidents.
saw some of it.
Okay, I'm not gonna play the whole video. Obviously, it's about 20
You see
minutes.
my message in the private chat?
Oh, okay. Oh, it's cameras on. Okay. Yeah, Pastor Green, if you can, yeah, I guess turn your camera off. I mean, if you want to come on camera, great. But there's a button. There's a button at the bottom called Stop Camera. It looks like a camera icon. You ideally would want to put that on, unless you're okay with just being on camera.
I stopped the camera icon. Can you see me?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back now.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna share this where once again, Do Dissidents, they're pretty left of center, social libertarian guys. They do really good stuff. So they really kind of give a lot of credit to Trump. He did call this out for years about the water situation. Once again, Pastor Green, I do think there is maybe an act of God aspect to it that we're getting as a result. But Trump brought a lot of receipts. So I just want to we'll play about maybe 5 minutes of it or so.
Russ Dobular in for Jimmy this week. We are, of course, talking about the devastating fires in Southern California. Donald Trump blames Gavin Newsom for California wildfires, reigniting, water management disputes. That's right up from Forbes. President-elect Donald Trump blamed his political nemesis, California Governor Gavin Newsom, for the devastating Los Angeles County wildfires on Wednesday, reigniting his years-long criticism that California has mismanaged its water distribution system. Trump said Newsom refused to approve a water management plan that would have allowed millions of gallons of water to flow daily into many parts of California to protect essentially worthless fish called a smelt, he wrote on himself. He's got a flair for humor even under these circumstances. We're so back. So back, that's right. Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snow melt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it parentheses, it didn't work. It worked for the smelt, but it didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. People demand that this incompetent governor allow beautiful, clean, fresh water to flow into California. He is the blame for this. On top of it all, no water for fire hydrants, not firefighting planes, a true disaster. Trump for years has argued that the state should divert more water from Northern California, where most of the state's water comes from, to farmers in Southern California and the Central Valley, claiming it would moisten the ground and prevent fires, rather than sending a portion through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta to preserve wildlife that live there, including smelt. See, I'm a little concerned that the smelt are going to be the kind of scapegoat in all of this. Remember, folks, it's not the smelt's fault. The smelt didn't do anything.
They're like fish. Yeah, they're like migrant fish.
Yes.
The migrant fish of this debate.
They're just trying to make their way in the world, just like all of us. Trump revived the debate during his 2024 campaign and said in September he would withhold federal wildfire aid to California if elected unless Newsom agreed to transport more water to farmers. If he doesn't sign those papers, we won't give him money to put out all his fires, Trump said in September. During his 2016 campaign, he used the groundwater debate in an appeal to California farmers, and during his presidency, his administration issued a rule reversing scientific findings incorporated in the Endangered Species Act that prioritizes protections for smelt over immigration systems in times of droughts. Over
immigration systems.
Sorry. You put that in my head. That's fine. Over irrigation systems in times of droughts, according to the New York Times. So that Forbes article links to this Times article from October 2019. See, there's a cute little fish. That is a smelt. That is the fish in question. Trump administration moves to lift protections
Looks
for
like
fish.
a job taking fish.
Yeah. Trump administration moves to lift protections for fish and divert water to farms. So this is the article linked to in the Forbes piece, just for some.
All right, so I just wanted to pay part of that, just to kind of give some general context to part of what Trump was talking about. So at least give credit where credit's due. I still got a lot of other different criticisms with Trump, and we'll continue on this show pointing out the absurdity of both sides of the aisle. But Trump was right on this one. So, anybody else had any thoughts on this wildfires going on?
Yeah, this is the danger of the Democratic agenda that blew up in their face. Because, these Democrats always want to try to justify the myth of climate change. So they'll set the scenario for these forests to burn. Just so they can say, oh, well, it's climate change. And you look at Democratic cities and states. Just last month, you had a so-called wildfire, because these fires aren't wild. They're created. In New York. Now, I lived in New York all my life, and there has never been a wildfire in the state of New York. And in December, are you kidding me? But see, these Democrats are so off the rail, and they're so evil that their plan has backfired to such an extent that even their constituents are now suffering. Because the harsh fact of the matter is, California is suffering for what they vote for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You keep voting these crazy people in.
That part in their policies, and these are just the continued results, whether it's increased homelessness, whether it's once again the wildfire situation, the lack of water mismanagement. You see things mounting, and even when I lived there, I just kept seeing one thing after another. Math isn't mathing, and if you mention it, you're a bigot. And it's like eventually you have to realize, like, okay, the way I'm voting, is that having a downriver effect on how I'm living? And if I move somewhere else, am I gonna just vote the same way, or should I look up and notice, okay, there's a reason why Texas is different, or Florida, or Michigan. So yeah, I just think it's once again the chickens, unfortunately, in some ways, coming home to roost. Once again, I feel for the families. I pray for the victims' families. I didn't want nobody wanted this to happen, but and there's even a friend of mine who's he's someone that sort of, he recently fixed up, had a little fixer up project, and he left town for a few weeks, and then somebody broke in there, and he's like, well, they just need somewhere to stay. And he's kind of just sort of, very typical liberal, big-hearted guy. And you're claiming this couple said that somebody broke in and they just decided to stay there after somebody ransacked. How do you know that wasn't them? And now, like, he's helping people put out fires, and he's like part of this little volunteer effort in LA. And I commend the guy. He's a good friend of mine. But at the same time, I think there's that bleeding heart liberal sort of mindset where, oh, everybody's a good person, and we just gotta, and they're letting your kindness, they're weaponizing your bleeding heart liberal kindness against you, whether it's you keep voting for these policies that disenfranchise you, whether you just keep saying these people here, they just need help, even though they'll take and steal everything from you, or they won't reciprocate at all because they don't respect your culture or won't try and assimilate. It's just that continued disconnect of, I'm just going to do the right thing or do what feels good, but they're not looking at the long-term effects of the way you vote, of the way you vote in policy, the way you sort of carry yourself. So, and this is why we end up having California the way it's become. Because at one point, I think maybe 30, 40 years ago, California used to be red. But this whole turning blue, that was a recent phenomenon, like after Reagan, just started trending blue, So, yep. Any conspiracy brother, anything else? Want to add to this tragic situation?
No, I think I'll stop it where you guys did. You brought up a lot of good points, and some of them I would have I'd like to expand on, but I think I'll leave it where you guys left it.
Okay, and I just wanted to. I just literally just picked up this last article, and once again, we're not here to paint an entire group of people as bad or they're only responsible for one thing. It may be a majority, it may be a good portion. I'm not saying this is all, but even with NPR, which is super far left, there's been a lot of the stuff online calling them out. Even in the midst of this, they have to kind of put in this puff piece of like, clearly they're not just profiling these Latino immigrants just to do it. They're kind of doing it like, oh, but Garcia, who's an undocumented migrant, like, why would you even mention that? Why would that even be substance for the article? You're doing that because you want to paint this picture of, oh, well, look, they're humans too. They've been devastated, and look, they're helping. They're spraying to put out fires, which I commend. I think times like these, we need to still remember we're all humans first. We need to help each other. At the same time, is FEMA going to be skipping the houses with Harrison Wall signs? Probably not. Trump signs? Maybe so. But at the same time, yeah, I get it. We're all human. But you can just tell, like, they're never going to put like, oh, Gloria, a Trump supporter, is helping, is going around putting out houses, with her hose. It's just going to be, let's sort of highlight and just plant that seed like, hey, look, this is the good thing. We are good virtue signaling liberals. And look, we're highlighting like these elite, they're undocumented. They're illegal, but they're undocumented. And look at what they're doing, which I get, but it's selective. It's selective posturing. This is selective. Let's prop up this protected class group and give them their own, like, Time Magazine type expose during this wildfire. Now you're, planning their whole, well, they immigrated here from Mexico, and you don't need to you don't need to have legal papers or be a U.S. citizen to help others, which is true. I commend that. But why are they putting the highlights on this? Why is this even relevant? It should be, hey, blacks, whites, whoever, we're just helping each other. The fact that, okay, now you want to hit on your illegal migrant virtue signaling drum, which isn't even necessary. But of course, this is just, once again, this is NPR. So look, they're not doing it. There's no illegal migrant crime. We're all humans. We're all people, which I get it. There's good illegal migrants. They still shouldn't be here. It's still illegal. But this is, once again, the seeding of like, no, none of that. That's racist rhetoric. They're all just helping, which I'm sure these people are good people, but they're still here illegally. So that's kind of the disconnect that still bothers me. Like, just articles like this, because you could tell what they're trying to do is under the veil of that human interest, but you're still trying to push and promote like the protected class over U.S. citizens. So that's all I want to. That's my last.
Well, the last thing I would like to say on this topic is that, it's ironic, but as a result of a fire, DEI and the climate hoax has been cremated.
Yeah, technically. Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that.
No more.
Yeah, we're done.
They know these files are set. They know these files are set.
And it's always rich, like even like Conspiracy Brother clip you shared of like the woke kind of lesbian firefighter.
Oh,
like when people want to get rescued, when people like they're in the worst day of their life, they want to see people when the fire truck shows up. They want to see people that look like them. Like what?
That's stupid. That's foolish.
They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to see a 4'11" a petite Asian woman that speaks, that looks like me, carrying that hose up 8 flights of stairs to put out my apartment fire. You know, this is just like, bruh.
And she's not even strong enough to rescue your dog, let alone rescue your husband.
Right. Oh man. Anyway,
Make it make
go
sense.
on. Let's stop. All right, y'all. Moving on once again on Comfy Truths. Y'all let me know in the private chat if anybody has a hard stop. We definitely want to be mindful of everybody's time. I know we're hitting the 3-hour mark, but I want to go over to this next topic. Unfortunately, not the most pretty heavy topic we got to get into. But there was this Britain-Pakistan gang grooming scandal. So I know a lot of people be like, "Oh my God, you guys are so anti-immigrant." It's in the news, folks. We're just noticing. The crime of noticing apparently triggers a lot of people, but we're just noticing. So apparently this was I think Reuters is a halfway good source. So once again, those guys that need the context, basically over the past 10, 15 years, the British government, and it's just been kind of like more so of a network thing. There's been grooming gangs that have been kind of grooming and raping young girls. I think for the mainly part Anglo-Saxon or Anglo-European girls in these different English towns and cities. And I think I shared in our group chat, Conspiracy Brother, there was a good report from the Morning Wire, and they discussed just basically how they wanted to hide behind that's Islam. It's racist, is Islamophobia, to point that out, to do an investigation, all these claims of it happening. No, that's just racist. And finally, it's just coming out. So yeah, it's really unfortunate. But has anybody been aware of this breaking news coming out of the UK?
Absolutely, and it's been covered up for over a decade.
Yeah, longer than that. Yeah.
And again, it's that they turn a blind eye again to Islam, because let's be real. Islam in itself is very disrespectful to women. Okay? They have no respect for women. They don't regard the lives of women. And especially when it comes to white women, because let's consider white women infidels, and that people that they can abuse. So it comes back to, like at the beginning of this podcast, how we see the dangers of Islam. It is very dangerous, and you're not being Islamophobic to state that. You're not being racist to state that. Even the Bible will say, you know them by their fruits. And what is the fruits of Islam that you continually see? Murder and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to listen. We have to say, okay, what do we do about this? I just believe that Muslims basically should be allowed to stay in their countries and live as they want to. But we have to stop the immigration of Muslims around this country, because again, they do not assimilate, and they have the mentality of wanting to kill people in order to enact Sharia law. And again,
exactly. Yeah. That's a very Oh yeah, you can.
It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's not speculation. It's not even a racist theory. It's true. It's true. So, like the saying goes, the truth hurts. But if we don't deal with the truth, more people are going to die. More people are going to be abused. And I yield.
And uncomfy truths. And once again, we're not. And once again, I mean, maybe Pastor Green, we may disagree slightly, but I think once again, radical Islam is a big issue. I'm not saying every Islamic Muslim person has that same mindset where there's a radicalization of the West is a woman to be mounted, because there is that radical faction, but we have to be able to call that out, whether it's out of 2 out of 100 people, whether it's 95 out of 100 Muslims or Islam, that it's the behavior we're calling out. We're not calling for hate of an entire race of people, but yeah, when your behavior, when you have a certain radical religious faction that calls for that violence, that misogyny, we have to call that out.
Yes,
Same
we do.
with like illegal migrants. Like, once again, we don't hate you as whatever race you came from. We call you out, and you need to be held accountable for doing an illegal action, for doing an illegal behavior. That doesn't mean we have hate toward you as a person, but just what you did. So same thing here. So I think if people can quit getting so wrapped up in when you say one thing about this part of a group, they think you mean all of them, but at the same time, we have to call out when it's wrong, when that behavior or when that action is leading to grooming, leading to women being abused, murdered, all this stuff. So I think people just have to just context, but people are just so caught up on this political correctness is where it led us to, where we can't call out just the crime of noticing, as I talked about. We're persecuted for just noticing and calling it out, whether you're black, white, Islam. If you're doing a thing that's illegal, you're doing a thing that's wrong, we call you out no matter what color you are. And that's the uncomfy truth. But Conspiracy Brother, your thoughts on this Britain grooming scandal with these Pakistan gangs. It happened to be Pakistan. I'm not racist against Pakistanis, but y'all did a bad thing, so we have to acknowledge the bad thing and who did it. But Conspiracy Brother, before I go on another tangent,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this, right?
All right.
I hadn't heard of this at all. I know you posted about it, and somebody was telling me about it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I hadn't heard about this at all, but this doesn't surprise me. There is some kind of weird. It's like a weird. It's like a weird. It's like a weird. I don't know if it's a liberal thing or
highly liberal.
Well, yeah, but I mean, more so from the perspective of like when you look at like the trans issue and you see like there was that guy in California who, remember, he went to like a women's spa and he already had been in trouble for, he had already gotten in trouble for like sexual assault or indecent exposure or something. And he got into a hot tub at an all women's spa. He was supposedly trans, or at least that's what they said. And there was like a 9 or 10-year-old girl there. And he kept sitting on the edge of the hot tub, exposing himself. And this little girl was in there. And, he wasn't supposed to be there because he's a man and not a woman. And you have people still trying to defend him. There's this weird thing where I don't know if it's legitimate. If these, I mean, like, I get some of the people who are making these defenses sincerely believe they're doing the right thing. But I'm saying, like, at the very top levels, are these people just tools unwittingly? Do they think they're doing the right thing? Like, I remember this video on YouTube. It was a little boy, and he was on like a camera with like his little brother or a friend of his and his mother. And he might have been like 12 or 13. and he had like purple hair or whatever or something, or blue hair, and his mom had like purple or pink hair. It wasn't all that color, it was just like a portion of it. And he was saying something like, my mom doesn't care as long as I'm LGBTQIA plus. And he was like, wait. She's like, no, say it. And he was, because like she was saying, she wanted him to say what he was saying because she didn't, it seemed like not that she wanted him to say it to promote it, but now it was like, well, what are you saying? You know, I'm not sure what you're saying. So he said, yeah, my mom supports me. She just wants me to be LGBTQIA plus. And so I don't know if she thought that was what he was saying or thought that it was how her intentions were going to be interpreted. But basically, the little boy, how he felt his mother's actions was that she wanted him to be gay. Right? And she was trying to say, no, that's not true. And so it's the same with these people. They're like tools where you try to support a group doing some of the most depraved and immoral things in the name of promotion of diversity or promotion of the differences and cultural differences of people. And that's not it. Sometimes I think people get into this cultural relativism thing too much. You believe that every culture is right in its own way, and within the context of where they exist, every culture is correct. And I don't agree with that. I don't submit to that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But somebody, I think there was a white member of labor government who was either arrested or implicated in this grooming gang thing, I think. So, I said, I hadn't really heard about this until you posted about it. And I didn't really get a chance to look into it because I've been kind of busy this week with a lot of things. Sure. But yeah, it's just a weird thing to me. And it seems like every day you see more and more in the media about people who have these, unnatural and illegal and immoral relationships with children and interactions with children. And, it's unfortunate. Luckily, I think we're lucky that it's coming to light because I think it's better for it to be known than for it to be in the background and people to be unaware of it. But I think, it's disgusting that it is as common as it actually is, that people are engaged in this behavior to the degree that they are, and that you would have people trying to defend it or hide it for whatever reason. I mean, you find that even happening, like I said, with the trans issue, where you say, hey, this trans person did XYZ, committed this crime, this sexual crime, or this, what do they call them? Body crime or something like they call that. And they say, well, they're only making this an issue because the person is trans. And it's like, no, we're making this an issue because the person committed a crime.
Yeah, it's the behavior, it's the action. They happen to be this trans. They happen to be trans. They happen to be that. Yeah.
Right. And that's germane to the situation because, you're trying to tell me that this person is a saint. You're trying to portray this person as a saintly individual purely because they have some misconception or misgivings about, their sexual identity. And so, that's the thing when people obfuscate from the actual argument or the importance of the point at hand, then you can understand, what the real situation is.
Yeah, and also I want to give a little bit of further context because this one article actually reminded me of a guy, Tommy Robinson, and we talked about this a few episodes back, a few months ago in 2024 on the UK riots. Because remember, there was that guy who was I forgot if he was a Somalian, he was a son of Somalian immigrants who went into this in the UK went into this dance studio and he stabbed, this Taylor Swift dance class and stabbed two little girls.
Right. Yeah, that was about 6 months ago.
And that started the UK riots there, where once again you had Ireland and UK and Ireland citizens getting together because they are now 4 or 5 years ahead of their open border situation that we're 4 years into. They're 10 years into. So I always say, look at Europe and their open borders policy, and that's kind of where we're going. And how, once again, for years, the same progressive UK leaders who were like, no, that's not happening. This is just Islamophobic, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was happening. They were gaslighting Europeans for years. And that's what happened with Tommy Robinson. He was talking about things happening, I think this one right here, I forgot, I didn't pause it. But once again, he's calling out the liberal progressive agenda and the open borders agenda that's ravaging the country, where people are coming in. They're not assimilating. There's this tension and beef between the natives and these imported foreigners. Same with what's going on in Chicago with the legal migrants and the black gangs. So he was calling this out years ago, and he's kind of become this guy that they're trying to imprison him. They're keeping him censored, similar to like Alex Jones or Julian Assange or whatnot. So he's like persona non grata in the UK. So he was calling that out then with the open borders, and now this documentary I think touches on the Pakistani gang grooming scandal. That once again, these uptight liberals who are like, no, anything, if you're this color and you're accused of doing that, that can't be, that's just racist. No, this is just facts. These are uncomfortable facts, unfortunately, that yes, bad people who do bad things, they come in every color, they're in every country, they're in every background, and it must be called out. So I would highly encourage, I think one of the articles had mentioned this, and I remember there was something about this documentary on Rumble. I never watched it, but definitely it's up on X. So if anybody wants to screenshot this, and I also post it in our group chat, definitely watch this, because this is a lot of the Europe open borders he was calling out, the tyranny during COVID, and then of course the grooming. Now this grooming scandal. So I wanted to just mention that. Anything else before we head up to the next topic?
Well, when you talk about grooming, and again, when you look at the history of Islam and Muhammad, Muhammad had married a 9-year-old girl. Okay, so that's part of the legacy of Islam, and it's not going to change. But again, like you said, we're not saying every Muslim is like this, but at what point do we acknowledge the fact that we have danger in our midst? Because a true fundamentalist Muslim is dangerous because why? They're going to do what the Quran says they are supposed to do. And they consider, if you're not Muslim, if you're not of Islam, you are an infidel. And it says right in the Quran, you are only worthy of death. And there's no other group that I can point to in modern history that will burn people in cages, cut off heads, kill themselves through jihadist acts, and martyr them for the sake of what they believe to be true. So we have to take a hard look and come up with some. Anytime you take a hard look, you have to be ready to come up with hard solutions. And I'll leave it at that.
Facts. I think you couldn't have put it any better. Conspiracy brother, anything else before we move on? Speak now or forever hold your microphone. All right. I think he's muted. All right, moving on. our next topic, as we wrap up here, we got just I think about 2 topics left, and we're gonna close out. Appreciate all y'all's been with us. We got to get to. I wanted to share kind of what I thought about the Luigi Maggioni effect. The Luigi Maggioni effect. And what I mean by that is this is news of it was like another attempted assassination. Once again, and I say assassination lightly. It's not like this guy's an immense public figure, but he's more so kind of a right wing troll, kind of far right guy. Even a lot of people on the conservative side don't like him. Kind of has some very controversial kind of anti-Semitism type views, depending on what your definition of that is. Nick Fuentes. I watched a couple of his videos, not impressed. It's kind of out there with some stuff. But however, I mean, he got doxxed a few weeks ago. I forgot how he got doxxed, but liberals start showing up at his house. One lady knocked on the doorbell. I think he threw water on her or something, and then somebody else came back and they showed up to his door and they shot at him. I think he ended up shooting one of the suspects. Yeah. So basically, this Nick Fuentes guy. So I say the Luigi Maggioni effect because whether it's Trump, whether it's a CEO killer, once again, I understand where people may be coming from with this, the state of the health insurance industry and how a lot of people are frustrated. But at the same time, if we have an issue with any sort of institution, am I going to go and shoot Bill Gates in the middle of Times Square? Am I going to go hunt down the CEO of Pfizer or Merck, who's responsible for over, I think, 100,000 opioid deaths? Multiple, I think Pfizer's had to pay out almost 100 million in settlements. All the people that got killed and all the people that got wronged from that. Am I going to go out and kill the CEO of Pfizer? No. I get the political sentiment of it, but I'm not going to go out and do that. So what we're seeing here, what you see more so on the left, unfortunately, is just go out and take care of it. They have more of the violence. I'm sorry to say, you see that with the summer 2020 riots, the BLM protests, mostly peaceful, turned Antifa agitator riots. So now it's kind of open season where, hey, you can go out and try and shoot at Trump. We missed him. All right, let's go kill the CEO. Okay, let's go kill this Nick Fuentes guy. Even a lot of stuff I don't agree with him on. He's part MAGA, I'm part MAGA, so I kind of agree with that. But that doesn't give you a license to go out and kill people you don't agree with. So I bring this up to say that, is this the Luigi Maggioni effect, where you got these liberals showing up to Nick Fuentes' house who got doxxed online, and now basically it's open season. If I don't like anybody, if they represent an institution or ideology I don't like, then you know what? We need to, blow them away. We now have free license and range to blow that person away. All right. So that's what I wanted to kind of open up and talk about. So whoever wants to talk, I know we got to wrap it up soon. We could probably wrap it up another 10 to 15. But if Conspiracy Brothers want to give me specifics, by a certain time, so we can have a hard stop, let me know. But I wanted to open up the floor. Do you think Luigi, this is apparently the guy that tried to show up to the guy's house and kill him. Is this a fact of people were egging on the Trump assassination? They were egging on the CEO killer. And here we are where people and try to kill somebody they don't like because the institution represents something they don't like or their ideology represents something they don't like. Here we are. So whoever wants to go first.
Well, being that I represent the biblical perspective on all of this, is that, liberals have to understand that you can't enact the purge when you're dealing with people that don't agree with you. Okay? And you remember that movie, The Purge? It was legal just to kill Yeah, and liberals have that mindset. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the violence that we have experienced in this country, okay, is of the liberal mindset. Like you said, Black Lives Matter. What did they do? Burning up buildings, destroying property, killing people. Even when you had the Daniel Penny decision, what did they say? Oh, we need black vigilantism. You see, it's that.
Oh yeah, Hawk Newsom. That idiot.
Yeah.
Which I used
So
to kind of have. He kind of came around a little bit on. He pushed back a little bit on the BLM when it went too far, but now he's back to just being typical, just woke Marxist. But yeah, continue.
yeah, and this is what these people do, and it's not just even the citizens, but even the elected officials who perpetrate this murderous mindset. You listen to the words of Maxine Waters and all these other Democratic elected officials. They call for violence, and yet they try to impeach Trump and say he caused a resurrection. But we have to really now bring law and order and common sense back to this country over these next 4 years. And this is why, as Trump gets in office, he needs to clean up the lawfare, because the mentality of these people is by any means necessary to do wrong and to harm your enemy. And that has to stop. And the left have to be brought under control. When I say brought under control, we do it legally. We won't act like them. We're not trying to kill anybody. But everything the left does publicly is always something violent. I remember when Roe versus Wade, when the decision was leaked, and we know the left leaked it, what were people doing? Going to Kavanaugh's house? Someone came there to kill him. They put his address out on the internet, and someone came there to kill him. And they think that we forgetting this. We're not going to forget this. We see how violent and dangerous the left is, and it's even affecting the mindsets of American citizens. And I yield.
All right, conspiracy brother. I got a couple of things I was going to get to regarding State Farm, and then also the fact that we're still living in an Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act system. So a lot of what the left talks about, the healthcare system is so unjust. This is under what Obama partly created, and we're still under. When Trump tried to come in and repeal it, or that was one of his faults. He didn't repeal it or replace it. But we're still under a failing healthcare system, partly powered by Obama's Affordable Health Care Act. So a lot of people who cheered on for these policies, we're now suffering under, not I want to say all, but still part of Obama's legacy with that. So they don't make that correlation. So I want to still get your thoughts, conspiracy brother. I think a lot of people aren't catching that either. So there's like a hypocrisy behind that. Well, a lot of this, you voted for Obama's policies for a lot of this healthcare system that's at least partly still in place. But a conspiracy brother, you want to get your thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Effect,
I don't know. I don't know if it's the Luigi effect, man, so much as
or the Butler shooter effect. I don't know.
Well, see, what I think it really is just, I think it really fits into the wider conversation we were having about, immigration and the economy and the government and big business and all that stuff. Because you look at, let's say you take the BLM riots, right? And you look at the way that those are kind of able to exist even during the lockdowns, right? Even when we're supposed to be doing all this COVID stuff, they allow these riots to happen over the summer. But when people were just trying to see their families and do things normal and you know, safe and lawful, totally lawful circumstances, they were met with pushback. And so what this does is it helps to create a social disunity, right? And so you factor into all that a flagging economy, inflation is rampant. You're sending billions and billions of dollars to foreign countries for aid. You're having tens, if not hundreds, if not millions of immigrants coming into this country and giving them millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in aid, if not billions. And American people are suffering every day. And people feel like, you know, they don't really have a lot of better options. I'm not making an excuse, but, you know, trying to understand the causes of this.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to look at this through the lens of how a government that is intent on stripping away our rights can use these situations for their own benefit. Like in the book, The Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon, and that's a book I got to finish. Was kind of really heavy, and so I had to kind of put it down because it was kind of one of those books like you had to be in the headspace to read it.
Right.
But it talked about how like a colonized people would resort to violence against each other, right? Within the class of colonized people, they would resort to acts of extreme violence against each other, fighting, death, murder, kind of thing, because they were around each other all the time, and they knew ultimately that the colonizer wouldn't care, right? You may go to jail, you may be punished, but you know, ultimately nobody would care. And in a lot of ways, this is kind of what you see. Even like Dr. King said, you know, the right is the voice of the unheard. And that can be misconstrued in a lot of ways. I think it can be used to try to justify bad behavior in a lot of ways. I think, you know, when we think about the BLM riots, I have never been a fan of BLM as an organization. And I think it's been, you know, I think the name, the slogan has been effective because for the people that it targeted, it is one of those things that, you know, it is attractive. But when you look at the composition of the leaders and the intention of the group at its core in its beginning, it never had any intention of making any improvements in the Black community. It was never anything more than a money laundering operation at best, and an LGBTQ movement. So, which sought to undermine, you know, family in general and the Black family specifically. And you can, you know, try to find information about their old mission statement to see that. But so, you know, when you see these kinds of outbursts, it's expected, you know, that people will, even like we talked about the last segment, when we talked about the last segment was I'm drawing a blank, but when we talked about how people have good intentions, like the grooming gang, people have good intentions, and you have useful idiots and tools who believe that they're doing something good. So you have these people who, you know, maybe this person is some kind of government plant. We don't know. I don't know if the person's been caught or killed or what, but maybe they think, hey, you know, I'm going to free America. I'm going to free the world of Nick Fuentes. Right now, I've heard Nick Fuentes talk, and the interesting thing about him is a lot of the things he says are inconsistent with each other. Right. Yeah. he is a self-avowed white supremacist who acknowledges that he is only mostly white. And so it's just stupid. A lot of the things he says is stupid.
Yeah, I mean Fuentes, the last name Fuentes, that gives it away. He got a little, he got some sauce in there somewhere.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, yeah, and you know, but you know, does that mean you should go and kill him? I mean, no, not for anything that I'm aware that he's done. I mean, he hasn't murdered anybody. He hasn't done anything under which we in the United States have deemed permissible and under capital punishment. So no, you know what I'm saying? But this is the kind of situation you have people who are so detached from reality, they don't have any strong familial or friendships. They don't have familial ties or friendships to ground them in reality. Nothing greater to live for. They're not married. They don't have homes. They don't have the ability to travel. They don't have cars that they own or any way to have recreational activities. They just sit at home and watch TV, like me and my father talked about. For young men, what they want from young men, what this country wants from young men, what I've come to learn is they want you to watch porn. They want you to sit at home all day, eat unhealthy food, play video games, work, and die at a young age. That's what they want you to do. Don't get a girlfriend, don't have a wife, don't have kids, don't buy a house, don't own anything, watch porn, eat bad food, play video games, go to work, and die at a young age. You know, and so when you have some of these people who watch these movies or play these video games and develop a thirst for a life filled with more of a glory, they go out and do stupid things like this. Things that are not well thought out because they don't have guidance. They don't have a strong social safety net. And when I say social safety net, I mean, you know, family, a structure who will help them move in a positive direction, who will be there to say, hey, man, that's dumb. Don't do that. That doesn't make any sense at all. Don't do that. Right. And so missing that, this is the outcome that we see, you know, not to mention, like I said, with the bad food, testosterone levels in men is at the lowest levels it has ever been in recorded history, right? The plastics that are in all of our food is diminishing the testosterone. All the other chemicals that are found in our food is making young men produce more estrogen and less testosterone. All these things work together to make a softer, weaker, more malleable, less rational, less reasonable young man. And so they produce these types of behaviors on both sides of this equation. Right. But Nick Fuentes, as far as I know, hasn't tried to kill anybody.
And so and Nick Fuentes also isn't responsible for like the denial of millions of claims leading to indirectly how many deaths, you know.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Right. And so, you know, there needs to be a political or a social or some type of ethical or intellectual or moral revolution in this country. It really does. I mean, I took my kids sledding today. Me and my wife, we took our kids sledding, and it was just kind of disgusting to see the quality of people that exist in the world today. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just a regular working person. And the level of people that exist on this planet is disgusting. and I'm compassionate. You know what I'm saying? I'm sympathetic. I'm sympathetic. Right? Imagine if I didn't care about humanity. Imagine if I saw people as purely a means to an end, Imagine if I was just trying to make money off of every single transaction or interaction or whatever. Imagine how I would feel. Imagine how Bill Gates sees us. Me too. Imagine how Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett sees us, because I see us and I am disgusted.
Oh,
that's me.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more thing to that. Once again, I talked about Obamacare before, how once again this failing health system, not all, but maybe at least half, we're still under a Obama Affordable Health Care Act run system. So a lot of people that want to cast stones and shift blame. It's like, hey, Obama put like 3-4 Citibank members on his cabinet and bailed out the banks in 2008. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, and he put in this healthcare system that many have been suffering from as well. And even State Farm. I don't know. I talked to you guys. I previously worked in the financial services industry, and State Farm was a competitor of ours. We were a very modest, financial service company teaching people finances, how to, double their money and all that. And State Farm, even back then, this was like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, was notorious for not paying hurricane claims in Florida alone. If you can look back at if you just Google State Farm hurricane claims, for years they weren't paying it like they were supposed to. Untold number of people lost everything, couldn't get a payout.
Hurricane Katrina too.
Yeah, exactly. And just this past year, there was a statement coming out about a class action lawsuit, and people starting to finally maybe get there. Now, is denying someone's homeowner their natural disaster coverage the same as denying someone their medical treatment where it leads directly to a death? Maybe, no, not as much. But people, their lives are still destroyed. Their savings are drained out. They're still damaged from that. So I once again say, like, when it comes to State Farm, where is the selective outrage? Why is it a lot of the liberal left, they're so against, they're all about, oh my God, health insurance companies, they're all like criminals, but y'all give big pharma a pass. Big pharma is like the cousin of health insurance. So why are you guys so gung-ho on big pharma, which is behind the opioid epidemic, Oxycontin, and a lot of these companies that have killed millions of people, or at least like 100,000 or something people, through a lot of these opioid addictions. And once again, the payouts from Merck and Pfizer, $100 million payouts for people who were injured or killed by the vaccines and the products. Y'all have no smoke for that. Y'all got no outrage. And once again, I said it once before. I know we got to wrap up, conspiracy brother, but your selective outrage always exposes your hypocrisy. Your selective outrage always exposes your hypocrisy. You got no smoke for State Farm, no smoke for Pfizer, or Bill Gates, or any of these other people that have screwed and talk about the millions of people in Africa injured by these vaccines or polio and all that stuff. You just go after the things you don't like, the speech you don't like, or the atrocities that you don't like. But you got no smoke for State Farm and Pfizer and all that. So I just got to put that in there, like, where on the right is someone killing the CEO of State Farm or Pfizer and all that. So, all right, we're gonna wrap it up, y'all. I just have to get that last part off my chest for the liberal left hypocrites who can't seem to put 2 and 2 together sometimes on the hypocrisy. But we're gonna wrap it up. Last topic, y'all. Conspiracy brother, how much time you got? I know we're over a bit. You got a few more minutes?
Yeah,
you got closing topic.
I got a few more. I can do a few more.
All right, it's going to be the last closing topic, and then we have Pastor Green pray us out. So, last topic. Y'all probably remember a little guy named used to play Money Mike in Friday After Next. Of course, Cat Williams. I wanted to do a little retrospect. Was Cat Williams right? Once again, it was a year ago this week that Cat Williams came on the infamous Shannon Sharpe show. And he basically said, 2024 is a year of truth. It's coming for all of them. So we sat here a year ago, and the whole, interview went viral. So I thought it'd be very fitting to end our first episode of 2025 on Comfy Truths, reflecting on Kat talking about 2024 being the year of truth. So 2024 is in the books. Now we could look back at everything. So we could try not to, everybody can, be as broad as you want or just give your last thoughts. Was Cat Williams right? Was this the year of truth? Whether it was Diddy, the Trump, the recent H1B1 MAGA divide, there are a lot of truths, whether it's maybe personal, professional in your life, or just in general. Would you say that in some ways, while Cat wasn't right about everything and he was off about some stuff or just flat out wrong, did he stand by? Did this age well? Looking back, was this the year of truth? So I want to go ahead and open up the floor. We can kind of end with that. Cat,
well, I think in the case of Cat Williams, 2024 was the year of the whistleblower. And the whistleblower had to persevere over the year of censorship. So the whistleblowing overtook and outlasted censorship because people have been telling the truth about what's been going on these last 4 years during the Biden administration. But what happened? They were silenced. They were ostracized, and we couldn't hear. So it was poetic that Cat Williams, who was part of the entertainment industry, part of Hollywood, that he exposed what was going on. So now we're going to see what we already knew was true. And now we just need to see justice. The people who have been abusing children, the people who have been abusing us. When I say abusing us, I mean, you look at COVID. How many people have died based on, this Dr. Frankenstein experiment of Fauci and others? And there needs to be not revenge, but justice. When you think about Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates, the two of these people need to, after a thorough investigation to prove what they've done, they need to be put in front of a military tribunal and executed. And that's not even talking revenge. That's talking fact. That's truth. Because if you try to commit genocide or mass death on the population, you need to face some form of capital punishment. So with what Cat Williams said and others, I pray that we see the results of truth being exposed and that those who are responsible be brought to justice.
All right, fair enough. All right, Conspiracy Brother, your closing thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up. Was this the year of truth? 2024 was Cat right on some things?
Yeah, I think yes, but I think also it reminds you of the situation in the Matrix. Remember when they went to see the Oracle, and the Oracle told him, "Don't worry about it." And then he turned around and knocked the vase over and said, "Sorry." She said, "I told you don't worry about it." And she said, "The real question is, would you have still broken it if I didn't say anything?" And so that's one of those questions. Like I've had that question. I wondered that, even during that scene, and like as a kid watching that movie, it's like,
man, it's such a great movie.
What?
That should be required watching every school in America, but the schools won't.
Well, they don't. Well, no. They don't want you to learn anything. You know, think about why things are how they are.
Yeah, critically think.
Like,
we want that.
Would he have broken that vase if she hadn't said anything about it? Right? And so in that same way is the fact that Cat Williams displayed a level of honesty and openness and frankness and then called 2024 the year of truth, kind of the license that the public needed to follow in his footsteps, to follow his lead, to take his lead, you know, and to do what he did or to do what he said. Because there were certainly truths revealed. Were there more truths than in 2023? I don't know. Were they more significant than previous years? I don't know. They were certainly significant, at least they felt like it. But, you know, the Jeffrey Epstein situation happened in what year? 22? 21? So we've definitely had some situations where some deep information has been revealed, you know. And I think, you know, with the internet being the way that it is, we've had the opportunity for big revelations. I mean, the Twitter files was revealed in, I think, 23, you know. So I think, you know, there was definitely truth told in 24. There was a lot of big truth told in 24. But how much of that was a result of Cat Williams declaring 2024 the year of truth? And how much of that was, you know, predestined or, you know, fated to be that way? And he just kind of jump-started everything, you know. I don't know. But I think a lot of truths had been told in the past year. That's for sure. A significant number. And certainly some really earth-shattering things. Some really history-defining and rewriting truths. But, you know, who knows? That's my appraisal.
All right. Excellent report, Conspiracy Brother. All right. I think, yeah, we're coming up on the 4-hour mark. So once again, it was a long show. It was definitely a deep dive. We were cooking deep on the H-1B topic, but I think it was a conversation that was well warranted. We need to kind of unpack a lot. But great show, y'all. I'd like to go ahead and once again have Pastor Green do a closing prayer. And once again, anyone out here, whether, you know, I'm personally identified as a Christian, Pastor William Green as well. We're not saying anybody here has to be a believer in Jesus Christ. You may worship Allah, you may be spiritual, you may be an atheist. So interpret the prayer in any way you want. Don't get triggered by it. Don't make it a big deal, you know, and in whatever way you feel like you want to get blessed or just get good vibes sent your way. Think of the prayer as good vibes, you know. No, you know. So we just think I think we kind of all agree it's just something that a lot of shows don't have a opening or closing prayer. They just talk politics. They keep it secular and keep it moving. So I think this is just something. Interpret the prayer. If you're not a believer in Jesus Christ or a Christian, you know, just take it which way you want, you know. But I feel like whoever you are, even if we don't agree or you hate our guts and our viewpoints, we still wish you well. We wish nothing but the best for you, and maybe you can live a fruitful life and, you know, achieve what you want to achieve. You know, so that's my intention behind the opening and closing prayers. Just give everybody some context. So, Pastor Green, whenever you're ready, you know, close us out.
And dear Lord, the term "God bless America" is so significant right now. And dear Lord, I pray that you would bless America. That, Lord, you would bring healing to our land. And Lord, I thank you, Lord, that you have given us a 4-year reprieve from the wickedness and the ungodliness that we have seen of such great proportion over these last 4 years. And I pray, Lord, that you will open up our minds and our eyes of the people in this country. That, Lord, that we will truly stand for God, country, and family. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Right. Okay. I guess that's it, everybody. Conspiracy Brother will be back, I guess, in 2 weeks, January 26th, for episode 39. Any other closing thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we wish you a successful 2025.
Happy New Year.
We hope that we can contribute to your political awakening and I guess even some spiritual growth and awakening.
Oh yeah.
You know, hopefully you have you take something from this show that you can use to enrich yourself and improve yourself, even if it is just to debunk what we think, what we say, or what we bring up, you know. But we appreciate you joining us, and we hope you continue to join us into this year. And we're excited to be able to bring you some of our updates and changes and progressions as we go along.
Here, here. All right, y'all. See you next time on Uncomfy Truths. Peace.
God bless.
Peace.